Okay, we are on the air. I mean, at least that's what it says.
Right.
That's what it's telling me. Um, so which is me and Jose tonight. Tim TK is feeling under the weather. Hope he gets better soon. And Quentin, I think, has been tied up at life stuff, so he's not going to be able to join us. But that's okay. Me and Jose can hold down the fort. We could talk nerdy stuff.
That's
I don't think
right.
we have any actual topics to talk about tonight except just nerdy things. We might kind of keep this a little short size, like maybe an hour or so. Um, but yeah. Uh, I work at Silverline on the penciler of obsoletes, and I also was the penciler of Fire Rush, and I do my own comic Godlings, which you can find online at. Uh, I think I have the links underneath. Anyway, it's Humphrey's Illustration at bigcartel.com is my store. You can find all my stuff there. You can find me on the Facebooks, on Humphrey's Illustration, Instagram, same thing. So, yeah. So, how about Jose? What is your.
I I am the master of all I survey,
That.
or or
This is,
the inker on obsoletes.
oh, that's right. Yeah, is some sort of comic book coming out and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Banners. I
After
am
30.
trying to
After
figure out
30.
how we usually have a scrolling thing that shows all our stuff at the bottom. I am not the master of this. I am for fan. How's it going? We may not have that up tonight, but you can count down opening clip. Me trying to figure out StreamYard video clips. Seems like it could be an overlay. Anyway, I guess we will. Including Jackbox. That's right. We haven't played the
Yeah,
Jackbox game in a while.
we make it up as we go. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what our better quality is.
So, anything cool happening in Nerdland for you, Jose?
Um, for me, I got a convention coming up in January.
Oh, that's cool. What
Yeah,
convention?
it's called Old Time Comic Show, and it's the first time they've had it. It's basically sponsored or put on together by a comic shop in Fort Myers, Florida. Fort Myers or Naples? I think it's Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Called Hero Trader, and it's if you're in the Port Charlotte, Ponta Gorda area in Florida, it's January 16th, and the tickets are $5 to get in.
That's not bad. It's straight up more of a comic convention than like a pop culture
Oh
convention,
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I've actually talked to the guys from Hero Trader about it, and they said that they really wanted to focus on it being what comic shows used to be back in the day, where you go there because you go there, you want to see comic books, you want to like find comic books from
Yeah.
retailers, something obscure that you couldn't find somewhere else, or that your particular retailer didn't have. You know what I mean? So I mean that's what the old comic shows used to be back in the day. It used
That's
to
what
be
I
just
used to go to.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
And for
even
fans, that's.
before Wizard got super huge, you know what I mean? Back in the
Oh, yeah.
day, Chicago and Atlanta, and was it Texas and
Thank
all
you,
the
and
other
for
ones.
fan.
Right.
He says I'm doing fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually held one of these shows down once. That was a Wednesday show. It was just me babbling for like an hour and a half.
Oh,
Why
I remember
I
that.
drew stuff.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
find out about that till after the fact. Otherwise, I would have joined you. I was like, wait, was you doing
I
that
think we
himself?
lost a lot of fans that night. I think a lot of people came on. I'm like, no, just no, and just left. But yeah, I used to go to. There was a convention around here when I grew up called Second Genesis, and that was the one I went to. That's the one you're talking about. It was like $5 or $6 to get in, and it was a flea market. I mean, that's what conventions
Yeah,
used to be, more like flea markets. And it seemed kind of weird because I remember there were comic book stores, but it seemed like, I mean, comic conventions obviously started before direct market, because how are you going to get back issues of stuff you
right,
missed? Then they go to comic convention. Then people were like, well, hey, we can make stores doing the same thing. And then, of course, direct market came in. But they kind of coexisted because, those stores can't hold everything, even though they
right.
try. I miss those old conventions. They were fun. There's something about the old conventions that's different than the newer ones. And I really can't. Maybe it's the fact like it's not so much It's so focused on comics that there's not too much other media. I mean, there'd be people selling the old toys or whatever, but there was never like Hollywood or celebrities. I mean, the celebrities would
Right.
be the local comic guy or whatever. Yeah, there was just something fun about those. More low key. A lot of the comic conventions now. I mean, they're certainly fun, but there's a different air to them, and I don't know how to. I mean,
Especially the
not bad,
bigger ones.
just
Like,
different.
and not to knock them. Like, I went to New York Comic Con, and
Yeah.
I did that. Was it 3 years in a row when I was up there for school, and it was just the most massive convention I've ever gone to. And I know some people were like, "It was so awesome," and I'm just like, it was really overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
I'm originally from, like, a small town in Indiana, so like going to something like that, even going to Chicago Comic Con, you know what I mean,
Oh
which
yeah.
was Wizard World. Even that wasn't like super huge. I mean, it was pretty big, but like I could walk around, I could breathe when I'm there. You know what I mean? But like New York Comic Con was a whole crazy another world. I just
Yeah.
wow.
It was crazy.
But yeah, I
I
like the
did
lower
this.
shows.
Yeah, and the shows are just different, not bad. I remember when I went to the small ones, I hear yeah, infrared. The small ones are way more fun. They are. They're
Right?
more low key, I think, and I think it's you can have have conversations. It's not people bustling around. Um, like when the one I went to, even though I showed at the table, there's constantly people like nobody can stop and really talk to me. Because they're constantly like pushing people down the line because it's like a conveyor belt of people walking by.
Yeah.
The smaller ones definitely I have more fun, but I used to go to the second Genesis, the smaller ones, and then I went to San Diego Comic Con for the first time. It's wow, okay. I was just like overwhelmed by the amount of stuff. That was the first time where I saw the huge booths like they do for like movies, like DC, like the booth was
Oh
like a
yeah.
floor. I
The
mean,
island. The
yeah,
island of DC, the island of Marvel, yeah. I
it
mean, I've
was
not been
crazy.
to it, but I've seen pictures, and New York was the same way.
Yeah, it was just it was those things, and I don't know. I think they still have them. Like they just did Emerald City Comic Con, and some people been showing walkarounds of the floor. Now I think Emerald City has a main floor, and then I think Artist Alley are they're split between floors. So I'm not sure if the person who was taking the video was on the main show floor, because
Oh,
I
gotcha.
think Emerald City is almost like the main show floor is like the booths and the islands. Then it goes up and up. So yeah, they do. That's the one. The crazy actually deserved attention. That was the thing about the
Right?
fun about because people there to see comic creators and not movie stars. It maybe it's just me, but it is weird to see so many movie stars get so much attention for being in things that they really had nothing. Like the creator of that thing could be on the floor and to get no attention, but the first star in the movie gets all the attention. I'm like, that's like I like like the inker getting all the attention and not the writer or something. Even though they're all important, I understand they're all important, but just kind of like that's I always thought that was weird. I do remember the oddest situation I had at the Rose City Con. I went there and there was Mike Mignola was there right next to Jeff Darrow. Jeff Darrow's booth table was empty, like no one was hanging out with him. Like Mike Mignola had a line.
Well,
Which
yeah.
because Hellboy is much more popular, but again, Jeff Darrow to me was like, the artistic. I mean, the guy is just like a monster artistic, but it was just so weird to see like the,
You
Trace.
watch your mouth, Everfed.
Uh, they are tracers. That I when when they said that in that movie, Chasing Amy, I actually who was I asking? Like, is somebody has anybody ever told that to you out of a joke? I mean, I've obviously referenced the movie, but has anybody ever said that to you? 'Cause I watching that movie and I don't remember anyone ever saying that to an inker, but then again, I've never sat at a table as an inker. I've always kind of wondered, is that based on something, or was that just made up for Chasing
It had
Amy?
to have been. It had to have been based on something.
Yeah, it was just funny. Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. He worked on the Matrix and stuff, and like no one sat at it, and it was just surreal. I'm like Jeff Darrow, artistic, kind of god in my. I mean, the guy's like amazing, and then
Right.
Mike Mignola is an artistic god too. But it was just such a weird dichotomy. And again, I think it's just because everybody knew Hellboy from the movies and didn't really know. I mean, they knew the Matrix. I don't think people realized Jeff Darrow worked on the Matrix as much as he did. I don't think people realize that as much, but maybe they do. I don't know.
Probably
Very
not.
interesting. Yeah, it's and I do find it very. When I used to go to Comic Cons, there used to be a section for the pros and then the artist alley. Now the
Yeah.
pros are in artist alley.
Well,
That
they don't
that
have another choice.
yeah, that's I was like, yeah, it's true. Yeah, make it break it dry. It's true. Inkers
I
can't
I
make
agree
the
with
short
that. I mean,
stuff.
not only because I'm an inker, but I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because I've seen people ink some of my stuff, and I'm like, man, and I mean, I've seen Jose ink my stuff, and that's no, he's great.
That's right. When he's off the camera, he's like, "This guy, man."
This sucks. Yeah, I'm obsessed with him. I'm super excited for the new Matrix film coming out. I started watching the new
Didn't Jeff,
trailer.
Jeff Darrow do something else, right? He
He's
did a
still,
western.
yeah,
God dang,
he
what was it?
did Shaolin
There's
Cowboy.
a yes, yes,
Yes.
that was such a good book.
I need to read that. My friend has him to the library. And then I got I knew Jeff Darrow from doing Hard Boiled. That's where I found him.
Oh, nice.
And then from there he did Rescue the Boy Robot and the big guy in Rescue the Boy Robot.
Yeah,
And then he did some other stuff, but then Shaolin Cowboy came out. And when I first saw it, I thought it was just a one-off. Like, okay, he just did this one-off. I had no idea it was like a series. And
yeah.
apparently there's like a few books in it. So that's kind of on my list to actually get, if anything, for the art. Um they brought out
I didn't read it when it first came out. Like I read it after the fact, but like yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh dude, that's awesome. I want to pick it up, and I completely forgot about it. And it was like I don't know, like a year or something like later that I finally like was able to get it and read it, and I was like, that's pretty
yeah, yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. It was funny they made comic. Does it the Oscars have a comic label? Is this old or new? I know they did the
No,
Burley Chronicles. That was the making of the Matrix. Ooh, really? I didn't know they
Burly
had.
Man Time.
Apparently, it's called Burly Man Comics. I will have to check this out. This it seems like it would be odd that they have not had a comic thing. I mean, they did the anime, which and then some of the animatrix stuff was almost essential to viewing the Matrix. Like those things actually essential to understanding the whole story. Yeah.
For some of it, yeah, I think I can agree with that. For some of it, it was.
Well,
Like
they
the other stuff
and
is just that they just wanted like display some like really cool like CGI and animation and whatnot.
there
But
was well, strangely enough, I remember when I saw the second movie. It started out with them meeting about the demise of the spaceship. And I was like,
yeah,
"What are they talking about?" And that was actually in one of the Animatrix videos that was called "The Last Flight of the Osiris." So the Last Flight of the Osiris is actually the very beginning of Matrix Two.
I
It's
didn't know
it goes and they go
that.
straight in. It's like you watch that one, and then there's another one about this kid breaking out of the Matrix. It's like on a skateboard. That's that kid because in the middle of number two, um, oh, did they make some? Ooh, really? I'll have to check that out. I didn't know there were Matrix comics. I did not know about this. Thank you. I'm a huge. I don't know why I shouldn't have thought this, but yeah, halfway through the second one, there's this kid that comes up. It's like, oh hey Neo. He's the one that shoots the chain at the third movie.
Yes,
Like you never say where that kid comes from. And one of the Animatrix videos, they explain where this kid comes from, and then he shows up in the movie. So strangely enough, the best way I watch the movies is you watch the first two Animatrix videos called the Second Renaissance that explains the backstory. Watch Matrix One. You watch the Last Flight of the Osiris. You watch the one about the kid waking up, and then you watch two and three. And that's actually almost the way order. They give you all the information. It was great.
you don't
Yes,
need no
he's right.
information.
The game had like 40 minutes of original movie footage too, and the game also tied into the second movie a little bit.
Oh, I played the game. I played the Matrix game. That was
You
fun.
played the Matrix game? Do you remember like the
Yeah,
two like they're in the tunnel and all of a sudden like I think it was Morpheus falls off the back of the semi and lands on this car and it's like
yeah,
Niobe driving it. The reason they got in the freeway is that so if you play the video game, it shows how they got into the freeway to begin with. So it shows how they got there, which is not super important. And in fact, I think on my collection of the Matrix, they put all the cutscenes from the video game in that, so you can watch all the cutscenes and then get the general idea of how they got there. But it's
right.
just how they show up in the show. But they did, and they tried to make like this whole multimedia, like Emperor France said. Um, you can go from the
Make it all
comics
connected.
into the game to the movies. Yeah, yeah. It's like you can go to comics to the game, and they all kind of interconnect or whatever. And I don't know if they're going to be doing this. Yeah, the end of the Matrix, you have to pick up the message to Cyrus. Yeah, that's it. So there's like so much more they kind of intertwined or whatever. And I have no idea if this Matrix film was supposed to be um as trilogy or just a one-off story. Um, he said me nerding out. No, no, man, I nerd out about the Matrix too. Trust me, I'm a big fan of it, and I like the sequels, even though the whole internet hates the sequels. My favorite is actually
You're
probably the
right.
third movie. I like the third one. They're all great, but the
I
third
like.
one was my
Okay, which
favorite.
one was the one that had the big honking party underground and whatnot? That was the second one, right?
Yes, I
It
think
was a
that.
big party, right? I like that one
Yeah,
only because, and like, in it, I mean, there were aspects of it that were like, okay, that's a little cheesy, like
yeah,
that's a little too much, right? But like towards the end, when there's like the big fight going on, that one dude hops into the robot, and it's just like blasting at the ceiling. That was probably my favorite part, like cinematically, because it wasn't anything great to it, but just like you
yeah,
sense, to me anyway, you sense that power when he hopped in there. It's just like, "Brrrah," right? It was friggin'
yeah. That
awesome.
was actually the third one. So the
This is the
second and
third
third
one,
one
yeah,
were
yeah.
pretty much one huge movie. I mean, it was
Well,
like,
that's true.
and there are people have said that they weren't that they made the first one and that it was so popular they wrote the second and third one. That's not true. You can see remnants.
I thought it was like, yeah, I thought it was already like roughly planned out the whole time.
It was. So there's two references to the sequels in the first movie that no one really connects. He's running down the hallway and he says like, "Take your left." He's like, "Yeah, take your left." Like, "No, your other left," because he tries to go into one door and then
Yeah.
goes into another door. That's a reference to Neo always choosing the right door when he meets the
Oh,
architect.
interesting. I didn't
And
know that.
so that's referencing, and that is my favorite thing. Changed my life perspective. Yeah, game's such as one thing, and that is, yeah, that was one reference. Like he's supposed to go, like that's reference to him always going to the right door. And if you read the very text at the end when he calls on the phone and says, "I'm going to free them," there's a trace program that starts tracing that phone call. As it traces, it starts saying the anomaly. That's what the architect called him in
Interesting.
the thing. So there were
Huh.
two references to the sequels in the first movie. So the whole thing was planned out. It wasn't that they wrote the first one and then, oh yeah, I guess we'll write some more. No, it was one huge thing, and that's what I loved
Yeah,
about it.
I never
Yeah,
thought that. I assumed that it was all planned out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Such as one of the, yeah, yeah. I love them. I'm so excited for it. And I wonder if they'll do because the actual color grading of the movie actually tells you where you're at. So green is the mind. I
Right.
think blue is supposed to be the real world, and there's I think there's a third one, but they would color grade it to show you what sort of like if you're in the mind, if you're outside the mind. I think Machine City might have been another color. They would do the machines, but yeah, there's you could pick that show. That's why I always like you always get something out of it. Like every time you watch, you always get stuff out of that film. Because it was supposed to be the comment by the end of the show. Neo was supposed to be combining body, mind, and spirit. The sort of like kind of martial arts thing, combining all the one.
Right.
That's why when he kept saying like everything is light. And when he walked in the Machine City, everything was light because he had finally reached a state of spirit. That's why when he had the blindfold, he couldn't see, but
Yeah.
he could see because he was actually starting to see like this sort of spiritual world, like the third eye sort of thing.
Right.
And the funny thing is, if you watch the very beginning of the series in the Second Renaissance, which is the first story that explains the whole war between man and machines, they said the machines were imbued with the very spirit of man. So if you look at the machines are the spirit, Zion or the human city is the body, and then the Matrix is like the mind, combining all those. There's all sorts of crazy stuff. They're huge on metaphors, and they're all through the film if you watch
Right.
them. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see what they do with this one. And I started watching the second trailer, and I quit halfway through, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to watch anymore. I don't. I want to be
I did
really
the same
surprised.
thing with was it across the
The Spider
was it the
Verse, yeah,
Spider
yeah,
Verse? Like I
that
think I
was my
started
favorite.
watching the beginning and then it
Yeah,
started getting a little crazy and I was like, okay, I can't watch this anymore. Like I know everyone like trailers are fun, but
yeah.
nowadays I've said it
They
a hundred
give
times.
so much
They
away.
ruin it. They give they give you like I didn't need to know
Yeah,
all the people that were in freaking No Way Home. Like surprise me. We all had ideas. We had all theories. Don't show me that. Show me like one villain. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah, or
mean?
something. Don't break it. Yeah, the Oracle's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one theory. The Oracle's bodyguard might have been one of the original ones to create the Matrix. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that out of all the Spider-Man movies, I thought the Into the Spider-Verse, the animated one, is it Into the Spider-Verse? Isn't that what it's called?
Into the Spider Verse. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And
like one of my favorite Spider-Man movies I've seen. I actually just loved that art style. I just thought it
funny
was,
enough, when I didn't watch the trailer when I first saw like the advertisements for it,
yeah,
right? I was like, oh, this is cool. I actually read the Into the Spider Verse stuff. It wasn't called as like Spider-Man, Spider-Verse or something like that. But like
Yeah.
it had the family, and I can't remember their names now, but like it had the family of people that were Spider-Man eaters.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
know
and I
Miles.
thought, yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
have to watch. Yeah, they're all read. You have to read it. It's pretty cool.
Do they have like just a graphic novel you can read of it, just kind of a
I think
collected?
it's all probably already in the graphic novel. It's been out for a minute, so yeah, 'cause I think I
Probably
was
find
still
it
in
maybe.
school when it came out. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I was reading out specifically, I would read it so that I could find out more about this particular family that was hunting spiders in different Spider-Man
Oh, that's kind
universes
of interesting.
and like eating them. And they have like on their wall displayed different masks of different versions of Spider-Man and whatnot because they would eat them for some reason. I don't remember what the whole thing was, but like because didn't read it till towards the end. And I was so when I saw the name and the advertisement for Into the Spider Verse, I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna have these dudes in it? Because that's pretty harsh for kids to watch."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they would do that. They changed it. He said, yeah, No Way Home could have gone away with no trailer. That would have been amazing if Sony had said, nope, no trailer, you're going to come see it. And that's true, you're going to come see it anyways.
Right.
I am probably the only one that I never saw the last Spider-Man movie. I liked, for some odd reason, I'm not a big Tom Holland fan. He's okay as Spider. I like Andrew Garfield. Even though the movies aren't great, he was like this, he looked the most like I just need to watch it. I just don't even ask me why I skipped that one. It's on
I
Disney.
like the
I'll watch it or
lizard
whatever.
in the Andrew Garfield one. In the first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, the dude that played the lizard was great.
Yeah, I thought that movie was. I kind of wish it would have gone forward. I mean, I know the second one had its problems, but I thought it was kind of cool. They were hinting to the Sinister Six, and they were going to do all this stuff, and then it
Yeah,
just kind of went. And I'm like, oh man, they're kind of bringing that back in this movie. I mean, the fact that all the villains are coming through is just sort of work around to throw the Sinister Six in there without calling them the Sinister Six or whatever,
right.
because like all the villains are coming in. Yeah, yeah. Did you hear see the whole trailer scene where they think they actually cut Spider-Man's out of the scene? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw someone trying to explain it off like that, and I'm like,
I could see that. I'd be curious. I mean, I'm if that's the really happened, I'm glad they're kind of like going to basically not reveal that. It'd be more
I'm gonna
surprising.
laugh if those two don't show up at all, right?
Yeah, and that was
Except for
just
those who show up,
fluke.
and I'm gonna laugh my butt off right in the theater while everyone at the end when everybody's like, "What the heck? That was crap!" and I'm gonna be laughing my butt off.
Well,
Like
the
just
funny
like
thing,
was it the end of X-Men? Was the end of X-Men First Class or maybe it was the one after that.
yeah,
They gave this like after credit scene where it was Egypt and all these people like commoners were like and they had this dude standing on like a building, probably a pyramid or whatever,
yeah,
and they're all like in
for
Savanur, and then the
Apocalypse.
trailer cuts off, right? And then everyone in the theater when me and my wife went were like silent because they didn't know what that meant. And I'm
I
like,
knew.
yeah, that's what you clap about right there. Like I'm just making a belligerent fool of myself. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. My wife's cracking up. She's like, what is the matter with you? He's like, that's apocalypse. Like that's apocalypse. Like I
yeah.
was excited.
I've seen much of his bones, so I can't slam in the lizard with the. Only if Macho Man was still alive to jump in that show, I would
Right?
totally be all over
Oh
that.
man.
Uh, that
How
yeah,
great would that be?
that was such a the Spider Verse. Why I'm so glad that they're making those. Didn't the Miles Morales character start in Ultimate Spider Man? Wasn't that Michael Bendis who started him in that
Yeah, I
series?
thought so. And then yeah, because in Ultimates, he was it. I think in Ultimate Spider-Man dies. Not
Yeah, and
not for hey,
then
listen, man.
Miles Morales
If
came in.
that's spoilers for people, that book's been out for like 10 years,
Yeah,
if not
yeah,
longer.
yeah.
Like
I
catch
never
up.
I started to read that series a few times, like from the library and stuff, but there's so much of it. I probably should go back and read it
Oh
now because
yeah,
I've heard it's actually. I mean, it's really well done, the whole thing. So yeah, yeah.
yes. Go back and read it because it was pretty good.
I tried to
I
read the
didn't read
X
all
Men
of it.
Ultimate
I
line.
caught some.
I didn't get
Mm,
into it. It was okay. I had the Ultimates. I had the both Ultimates books, the first
yeah,
two books, which a lot of people don't realize that the Avengers movies are loosely based on the Ultimates universe, just
with
not as dark.
with 616 characters
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
because they took regular Thor. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was
they are
regular
making.
Thor, um, regular Iron Man, and changed Cap up a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
they basically took regular 616 Avengers and put them into the ultimate storyline.
yeah, yeah. So he says, Emperor Francis, not to mention we're secretly making two Spider Verse movies. I'm so excited. So yeah, they're actually, and now I have no idea if this would happen, but I think it'd be funny. And nowadays, the way they do movies, I wouldn't even put it past it. If they would find some way they combine the animated and live action.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I could dig that.
I mean, if anything, you can have Miles Morales come in live action. I mean, you could do. I don't know. I mean, they've had so many movies and stuff do that before.
Well,
Um.
Miles Morales has such a huge following, regardless of like even before the movie and whatnot. Like he
Oh
had a
yeah, I
pretty
always
huge
liked him.
following. Yeah.
Yeah, I never read much of his books, but as far as like because I was never like I usually read superhero books in the library. So if I get a superhero book, I read it from the library, and that's usually. It's just because of the place to put comics or whatever. Like just collecting comics, I just don't have room. So I'm like, can I like read it and like give it back? And so
Right.
that's how
That's how I
I would
read
read.
Gotham Academy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I just give it back. And but the mouse is it Morales or Morales?
Morales.
Morales character. I always
Yeah.
liked him. I loved his costume. The black and the
So
red I thought was
I
like
think
the
he's
most.
a friend of mine told me he's like black and Puerto Rican. So he has
Is that what he's supposed to be? Okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Don't beat me up, internet, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I know. Yeah, the new trailer for the new movie looked great. I saw the first Into the Spider-Verse movie in the theater. I haven't watched it since. I need to go back and watch it. It's been a while. But then it'll be like a new movie to me. Japanese
Right.
Spider-Man or if only they would put the but if they do, he has to make the robot. He
That's
has
right.
to put into the giant robot.
Uh
Have you
the
ever
one
seen
you're talking about, the Japanese one from like back in the day when you had like the big gauntlet web shooters and whatnot.
and I think he actually like he didn't he like form a robot that he jumped into the robot and fought things or whatever. I think so.
Yes.
That
Like it
would
was like a big like a Zord, like a big like Power Rangers Zord.
that would be awesome. I would love it. And I don't just for goofs if they actually ever put in the one from the old 70s movies, the one where they would show
Yes.
him or like put the Spider-Man in from the electric company. Now that's a stretch for all you kids out there who don't remember the
Wow.
electric company, but he couldn't talk. He had to sit there and just nod his
Yep.
head or whatever. Oh yeah. That's why
And
I was first
he would
introduced to
swing in.
Yeah.
And you never see it happen. You just see the landing.
You never yeah. And it's funny too. The emissary is that what he called himself in the Japanese one? He called himself the emissary of hell. Yeah, I remember the electric company. I think it's the first time I saw Spider-Man, and then it was Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Yeah.
Yes, the lens because the lens were like they had some sort of weird like texture to them or whatever. But yeah, the old. I remember watching those old
Didn't they have
'70s
the speckled
Spider-Man.
dots? They had like the speckled dots so that he could see,
Yeah, something like that.
right?
Yeah, yeah, this '70. It'd be funny because there's so many variations of Spider-Man. Even if the one I would love to see them do in the animated one, which would be kind of hard to put in the old '70s Spider-Man cartoon, the one with like Spider-Man, Spider-Man, the song or whatever, the old '70s one
Yeah.
with they make all the memes, and put them in the same art style and same animation frame. That would be hilarious.
See,
Or do the scene with the Spider-Mans all pointing at each other. There's like a
you're gonna
meme
get like
scene with
you're gonna get that you're gonna get kids coming from the theater. It's gonna be like silence, dead silence. They're just gonna walk out and just start
yeah.
crying.
I was happy they put Spider Ham in there. I always remember Spider
Oh,
Ham.
I
I always thought he
know.
was, and
Peter Porker.
they made other characters. That's what when I saw them, like, well, they should bring out the because I think like Captain America was like a Bugs Bunny, and like they made a whole bunch of
Oh no.
anthropomorphic
Okay,
animals.
so check this out. So the animals, as far as I understand, like those animals they had DC had a plan. It was Earth X, Earth something, and it was Captain Carrot and he was like with the cape. He's a rabbit with like a mask on, like super buff and whatnot. And they had like the
Yeah.
turtle that was super fast called Fastback. And then there was a Iron Ham, which got bit by somebody and it became like a werewolf. So he had this patch of metal on his chest that was I don't remember. There was a lamb. She was almost like Liberty Bell, but she
Yeah.
was like a cross between like Liberty Bell and Wonder Woman, and she was sheep. She was like a lamb sheep person. And then another one was a duck one. I
There
can't
was
remember
a.
what that one was.
He said to go back and watch the after credits of the Spider Verse. It's been a while. I need to go
You
back. I
talking
don't
about
remember.
with the part where they talked or was it Spider-Man 2099 talked?
Yeah. Which if did you watch the whole trailer of the new one?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because if you don't
No.
watch it, that's like the big reveal.
Oh no, I know that Spider-Man 2099 is in it. It's like I said,
Yeah.
as soon as the art style changed and Miles was flipping and all of
Yeah.
a sudden was it I think his name is Miguel, right? Spider-Man 2099
Yeah.
starts to swing in, I shut it off. Like I'm not watching the rest of this. Like I
Oh
can't.
yeah.
I want to
You
be
were literally
surprised. I
like
want to enjoy
seconds.
it.
That was the only scene. You didn't. You saw the whole thing. That technically,
Oh, okay.
that was it. There was nothing else to it. They
Well,
just showed they showed him
okay.
saving it, and then that was it. Yeah. 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 There was nothing else. Um. Yeah, 2099 was one of my favorite ones. I love that. I like the 2099 line. I remember
I actually
they.
like Ravage 2099.
What was that? I remember the Ghost Rider one was the one I liked a lot. The sci-fi Ghost Rider. What
Yeah,
was the
or where
Ravage one?
he was like Ravage. It was almost like I don't even know recognize Ravage like from before. You know what I mean? But like it was a dude that got he used to work for whatever that company is, Roxxon,
Okay.
and then he got he kind of got thrown away basically.
Okay, I'm looking at it. I remember this now. Yeah, that was one of the
Yeah,
original characters in 2099. Because all the characters are just future characters, and I know they made a few original ones.
right.
I remember, yeah, and
Yeah, I
The
actually like that
Punisher
one because
one.
that
I
one.
totally forgot that the Punisher 2099. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
one wasn't quite my favorite either. Sorry, Marvel, but it wasn't my favorite.
Did they make an X-Men 2099?
They did.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't remember if I liked that. I remember reading there were so many crazy. I remember like Clive Barker made like this Hellraiser superhero universe. Do you remember this?
I feel that I remember that I don't
It did
remember
came out
details
very,
of it though.
very loosely, and I remember buying it because I remember, like, I was a fan of Hellraiser, and they didn't look anything like Hellraiser. But I was like, "Well, the guy wrote
Right.
Hellraiser,
Was
wrote
it
superheroes. Like,
the
I
what are
gotta
they
just
called? The
check this out."
Cenobites?
What?
Something. What are they called? The Cenobites or
Yeah, the
whatever the
Cenobites or whatever.
pinhead people? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Huh." I think I was I'm talking about that. I remember that coming out the same time in 2099 stuff. They did all sorts of cool stuff like that. Does Marvel still has the Marvel Max line, doesn't it? Which is supposed to be the more adult orientated.
I thought so because I think they have like there's in a Western one that I kind of read the first couple of them, but not passing. I don't remember what the name of them was. Like I feel that I read them in passing, like just kind of skimmed through them. Like like I like westerns, but that's not quite my style.
Yeah, I know they have the Spawn Gunslinger. I haven't read Spawn. I actually went back and tried to read the Spawn comics.
That's one that's kind of out, right? It's like 5 issues or so in the Spawn
Yeah,
Gunslinger one.
yeah. I thought about Mike going in and getting some of those because I there's like 300 issues. And I tried to read the old ones, and I'm like, can I just get like a highlight and read? I
Right?
I
Where
like
are the cliff
Spawn the
notes?
idea,
The
but I
cliff notes
remember
for Spawn.
what?
The cliff notes for Spawn. That's what we need.
Yeah, because I remember somebody saying like Spawn that he always promises stuff, then like 20 issues later that like the thing happens. Like
Right?
he takes his time. So yeah. Um, I don't know. Now, maybe people who've read Spawn may know this, but I remember he had like a little meter that he could only use so much of his power that it would count
Yeah.
down.
Every time he uses power, the countdown would change and whatnot. I think he
They
actually
got
burned it
rid of
out.
it
I think at some point he burned it out.
or something. I got rid of it, or did he burn it out?
Yeah. I thought so. I could be wrong. I didn't really follow Spawn a lot, but like I know a few people that did, and I was like, um, not not really my thing. Like he's kind of all over the place, but like people love him. Like
Yeah.
friggin' McFarlane had just had gold on him when he created Spawn because, geez, that's everywhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I thought the fact that his cape and chains and his suit was alive, I thought was a cool idea. Um,
Yeah.
I know I never liked and I think I think it's actually, I don't know if it's, I think it was the second. I think there's a new look for Spawn, but he had like this club foot in one of his looks, and like this big, like he
Yeah,
was.
like the boot was really big on one foot. I was like,
I was like,
oh,
that just looks dumb. I like the original one, but and I thought, oh, he's not gonna get rid of it, but no, he kept that forever, and I'm like, nah, I don't like the big boot thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I had a figure of Spawn that had it was that particular design, but like it's like all of I mean I don't think anybody can really complain about McFarlane toys and the fact that he branched
Yeah,
out to other
yeah, yeah.
avenues like baseball and football and I think
Well, he's
hockey. He
such a
did the hockey
sports fan.
tribute, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but like his figures are always like top notch, man. Like and
yeah.
so my Spawn figure I had, it was like the diorama for it was like the side of a cathedral with a stained glass on it,
Okay.
and you could post him on it, and he's like coming down. You know what I mean, with his hands out like this and
Oh
whatnot.
yeah,
And the cape was a hard plastic, so like flowed behind him like as if he were falling, and like it was fast enough that it pushed it back. It was pretty cool.
yeah. So I had some of the Spawn stuff. I liked. I remember he made like Mandarin Spawn and other types of Spawn. I did like the
Yeah,
idea, and I think that's what he's doing with the new Spawn universe, is spawns in other timelines, because it's supposed to be every year has like a hell Spawn. The one
right.
thing I
Well,
never did.
I liked medieval Spawn. I thought
Yeah,
medieval Spawn was cool. 90s, it was 80s. Yeah, right. Lots
yeah,
of
doesn't that?
pouches everywhere.
And you know, that's the one thing I never. Maybe I'm wrong. They put all the pouches, and they never had any of them take anything out of the pouches. I'm trying to honestly think, like, I'm trying to remember, like, did they ever show a scene in any of the comics where somebody's flipping over, like, the leg pouch? It takes something
I can't
out.
even. Yeah, I don't even
I
know.
don't
I've
think they
never seen.
did. I think it was just like, what did they carry in there? Like crackers for
I
snack
know.
time?
Was it a few years back? As a joke, Rob Liefeld created was it Pouch Man, and it was just a guy made completely of pouches.
When it originally came out, it kind of like made sense. I mean, you took Batman's idea of pouches to to its kind of logical next step, but then it just became the leg, the thigh pouch. I mean, they
Right.
still draw Spawn with the thighs pouch, which always seemed weird that his costume would create that. But I, I always thought Spawn's costume was a little too superheroish to be a hell Spawn. I always thought he needed to look more hellish. I
Right.
never got why he's got the cape and the tights, and I'm like, yeah, but it's supposed to be from like the depths of hell. Like maybe I don't know, maybe Satan really likes comic books. I don't know. I mean, it was a little, I was a little like, that's kind of it kind of, because he would take out the mask in certain scenes and he'd be grotesque and and rotting or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but it kind of kills the whole scene when he's got a cape flowing in the
Isn't
back.
there like when he tried to use his magic? If I remember correctly, he tried to use his magic to make himself look like his normal self. He came out looking like a white dude.
He did, which I thought was funny, and it's like the ultimate insult to his original character. That's what I was thinking. See, this is I think it's like peanut butter cheese crackers. I think that's what they keep in the pouches. They keep snacks
Right.
because you never see them. I mean,
Gotta carve up.
yeah, that's right. Because you always see them out like hopping buildings or whatever. You never see them stop for a snack time. And they got to get hungry or out of breath. Like you never see Batman stop in a building and like dump a water bottle over his head because he's kind of hot and stuff.
Right.
I still, even- I still, the one thing they know. What was the There was a guy I saw this, yeah, and you can find these documentaries about real life superheroes. And there's one I saw years ago that did various stories about supposed real life superheroes. Um, which they had one guy that was like actually like roaming, like walking along the edge of this building up high, and I'm sitting here just like, and I think he kind of figured this too. I'm like, okay, let's say you're on this 5-story building, walking on the edge looking for crime. Let's say the crime does happen. How are you going to get down there to stop it? Like jump off a
He did
5-story
that. He
building?
jumped.
Yeah. So he's like I can see him saying like, "Stop, hold still," and then running down all flights
Right.
of stairs out the back. Yeah, time for hot peanut butter. It is. That's what I'm thinking.
I had a guy I know write a comic where the superhero guy was on the roof and he's like, crime is afoot, right? And so he runs to go downstairs and stop
Yeah.
crime from happening. And like it's basically a entire page. It's like I think it's like 16 panels of this dude going down the stairs, right? So it's like down, 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 passing a bathroom, down, down, going back up to the bathroom, and then going back down.
There was an old anime where, and I don't even remember the name of it, but I remember there was a scene in there where it was like some giant robot. You know how they did in a lot of the Japanese anime where the robots launch out of the thing or launch out of the
Yeah,
water? He just goes running down this runway like at full speed in the robot, and he's just like running down I remember one of the guys in the control center was like, "Is that how he launches? He just runs down the control center?" And like the lady who controls the landing pad, she's like, "Yeah, he does this all the time." So he just like basically runs down and like jumps off for his big. I'm like, okay, that
that's
was
hilarious.
pretty
That's
funny.
like was it the Robot Chicken Star Wars thing where Darth Vader's like choking someone and one person just turns and looks and he's like, hey, just go with it. Like he does it all the time. Okay.
Like he's
So
not actually doing
yeah,
anything.
yeah, like Darth Vader's doing this and this dude's like it's like just go with it. Like he thinks he has powers. And so he's like, okay. Ah, ah, ah.
So, do you remember the Spawn parody comic Spew? I do remember this. I don't think I read it, but I do remember this. Like his cape got wet in the rain, and it was so massive the weight pulled him.
I
I
feel
remember
that I
seeing the
remember
cover
that, but I never
of
read it.
Spew, but I don't remember reading it. But that's hilarious. That reminds me of the original Tit comics. Did you ever read the
Yeah,
original Tit comics? The cartoon was funny, but there was some stuff they did in the comics they couldn't kind of do in the cartoon. And one of
that's
them
the
they
same
did
with
the
the Ninja
whole
Turtles.
what?
That's the same with the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, well, they did that with the ninjas in general. It's a whole like three-part story in there with ninjas, and yeah, the ninja. I was such a disappointed kid when I saw the Ninja Turtles cartoon. I was like, oh, it's gonna be like the comics, and I was like, what is this? I
Yeah,
just
I
was
didn't
like,
even know the comics existed when I first watched the
yeah, I
Ninja Turtles
remember you
cartoon. I
saying
just thought
that.
it was hilarious, and then I went back and read the comic. Wait, there's a comic? It's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's cool. And then so I read the comic, and it was like, oh, they're wrestling in space and whatnot. That's pretty cute. That's pretty neat. And like, no, no, that's not like the OG Ninja Turtles. Like, what are you talking about? And then they showed me the Eastman and Laird books. I'm like, oh, um, whoa,
yeah, they're totally different. And I know I've
yeah.
never. I still need that. You were the one that read some of the last Ronin book.
Yes, I haven't finished it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
out
a
there.
great story so far that
I
I've read
need.
anyway.
I want to get that one, and I need to finish. I never read the War for New York City, which is the last storyline of the
There
original
is
series.
there like anybody that knows me, I love drawing on blank sketch covers, right?
Hmm.
Like love drawing on blank sketch covers. And I found there was a Last Ronin blank, and I have yet to find it, but I will, and I will own it, and I will draw on it. It will happen.
I was always nervous I would
Christmas
mess
is
up
coming
on
up,
this.
family.
I was worried I'd mess up on the sketch covers, but some people do amazing stuff in those. There's a store um, downtown here that has a whole rack of nothing but sketch covers. And of various
What?
comics. Yeah, they're for sale. You go back in this one room, and it's about I think it's like 5 comics across, and like maybe 5 rows down. It's all these from various comic titles. These blank covers he
I need to
sells.
move to Oregon or wherever you guys
I
are.
know. It's like
Jeez.
I know they're hard to find. I have seen them here and there, but I've not seen somebody sell them like that. Like you could go and like take
Right.
this issue and do the sketch
Like
cover or whatever.
one of the stores before Reflection Comics, which is my local comic shop,
Yeah.
before they opened up recently, like they opened up in October, or October 31st. They opened up Halloween, I think it was. But anyway, um, they he brings me in sketch covers. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, I put
Okay.
this aside for you. I'm like, that's awesome, thank you. But like, I would go to another shop and I'm like, hey, you're a bigger shop. You've been here for a minute. I know you get sketch covers in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you have any? Where yeah. Oh, as soon as they come in, a guy comes in and buys them all. I was like, okay, I can't hate on someone for that.
Yeah.
But would you be willing to put one aside for me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll come pick it up, knowing you're going to get another buyer, another artist to come and buy sketch covers. wouldn't you order one more?
Or order a
Like,
few more. Yeah.
put my name on the list. Like, listen, I don't care what it is. Honestly, I'll draw something on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I just love drawing on sketch covers, and I'm like, can you just put one out there? Oh, we don't do that. You have to come in for that. I'm like, really, dude? Like, I drive like 45 minutes away to come here and ask you, and I'm willing to do that to buy comics. I used to drive an hour and a half away to go buy comics, and I would
Yeah.
stop by like I'd go every 2 weeks, and I would drop like 50, $60 on comics because I had a pull list. I had stuff
Yeah.
that I wanted. I would listen. I'm gonna be here. I won't be here every week, but I'll be here at least every 2 weeks to pick my stuff up.
I'm the
Yeah, like
only
you
comic
couldn't help me out.
collector in the history of comics that never had a box, and I don't know why. But I was
It
kind
does
of one
make
of
it
this.
easier.
What?
It makes it easier.
It because I was always the person that wanted to go in, and there were some series I collected, but I was always into looking for the new thing, the new crazy thing I didn't know about.
Oh,
That was always
I still did
more
that,
what I was into. Yeah.
but I always wanted to guarantee that I got my Detective Comics. That I
Yeah.
got. What was it? I got Detective Comics. I got a few other ones at the time, but like Detective Comics is probably like the oldest book, and I don't even go back that far to be honest with you with Detective Comics. But like Detective Comics, and I think I got some Red Sonja stuff. I collected some Conan stuff when it came out. Some Aftershock comics.
Yeah.
That I thought were pretty cool. You know what I mean? But yeah, but I'll always go in and if there's a new issue of something out, like first issue of blah blah blah. I was like, oh, let me check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm
Definitely.
all for reading a new
Yeah.
book and falling in love with something new.
I'm always doing that, checking stuff. Now, do you still collect any series regularly, or have you stopped doing that?
Oh no, I still collect series. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which series do you
Mostly
collect?
Detective Comics.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's debatable. For the longest time, I collected like everything that New 52 was putting out. I'm a huge DC fan. I love DC.
I thought
I
the
don't
new
like what they're
52.
doing. I'm not going to get into their politics and whatnot because
Yeah.
but the books and some of the stories are just making me kind of like, okay, they're not that good anymore. Like stories used to be pretty good, and they're not.
Yeah.
But like I'm starting to pick up some new stuff.
Did you read
Uh,
the black was it black metal or the metal
Death Metal.
death metal? I never read those, but I heard those are really good.
I actually circumvented that completely.
Oh, did you? Because a lot of
Yeah,
people like really like that. I never read it. I would just assume I would. Again, this is stuff I just I'll go to the library and read it. I haven't
right.
been to the library because I keep actually buying new comics and stuff.
I have quite a few of them. I don't think it's all of it, but I have quite a few of them because Pete couldn't take them back to England with him, so they ended up at my house. So thanks, Pete.
Yeah. And Pete, if there's anything else you need to send our way, just let us know.
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. I collect I like the Black Label series. They have this I'm a huge
Yeah.
Wonder Woman fan. I have like
Oh yeah, Dead Earth.
Dead Earth. Yeah, and I
That
have
was
like
a
she's probably my favorite superhero. And I went back and collected a bunch of omnibuses like George Perez's run,
yeah. I
John
would say
Byrne's
George
run and
Perez did a
stuff.
huge run on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so sorry to hear what happened to him. What happened to him. The news today about his
Yeah.
diagnosis. Um, he's the only Avengers comics I have besides the Ultimate of the George Perez run,
Oh
and
really?
it's a bummer
George
reading it.
Perez did a lot of the who because I like collecting older stuff. I know it sounds
Yeah,
weird, but like I like new books. I love new books, and if I can get new indie books, I will pick them up and read them because
yeah,
I love showing support. But like the classics, like I know a lot about DC and a lot about like DC heroes and villains because I collected DC was it DC's Who's Who? Oh, Who's Who of the DC universe, and
okay.
it's basically was basically like each page was a hero or villain in alphabetical order, and it gave like their base of operations, the first appearance, and some of their background and
Yeah,
how they got to where they were, and then description of their powers. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Christ on the
Look,
Infinite Earths. Yeah, I read that from the library. I still need to buy that.
that was
The funny thing that's a bummer about reading George Perez's stuff is he starts out doing it and then they bring in another artist and you're like, no, stop that, but he's still writing
right.
it, so you're like, well, I want to finish because he's writing it, but then you had the sad face because he's not drawing it. So they did that with Wonder Woman. I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. um but yeah,
Yeah, I
and I
posted on our group thing. I have somewhere. I probably lost it to be honest with you, in like the 87 moves I've done. But I had a photo of a guy, a friend at the time that I went to Wizard World Chicago with,
Hmm.
and there was an after party, and we went to it. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, there's gonna be artists
Yeah.
and stuff there. Let's go check it out. And we saw George first time. Bro, that's George Perez. That's George Perez. Let's go say hi. Let's go get a picture.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, okay. So we know there's like, hey, like George, can we take a picture with you? You know, you and my friend. And he's like, sure. So like, he put his arm around him, and right before I snapped it, George turns around and gives him a kiss on the cheek. I was like, what?
I heard he was a really
That's
funny, nice guy. I never got to meet
He
him
was
at a show.
hilarious. Like I've only met him like I think maybe twice, and like it wasn't even like, oh, I met him as a fellow artist. It was like I met him and I fanboyed out like, man, he's
Yeah.
good. Art.
I
Sorry,
think
my
one of the
cats are attacking each
last
other.
artists I fanboyed out was an artist named Larry Stroman, who
Larry
did
Strong.
yeah, if you look at he's one of my all-time favorite artists. He did Alien Legion. That's where I discovered him from. He also
Oh,
did
okay.
X Factor. He's the one that made all the yellow and blue suits. He has this very unique art
Oh,
style that he does like graphic design and stuff. And I there was a convention a few years ago that I walked by and I'm like, is that Louis Stroman? And then he's just sitting out by himself, and I come over, and I didn't have any money at the time because I spent all my money just to get into the convention. But I
right,
wanted to buy something, but I had no money. But I went up and talked to him and said hi, and I was like, "You're my favorite artist." I was looking at your stuff, and I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." Very humble guy, very nice guy. But again, I was just like, it's weird when you see like your artistic heroes and like no one else is around them, and you're like, "Why? This guy should have a line." I mean,
right.
he's a big influence on me. Even though my art doesn't really even look like his, he's always been an influence on me.
Yeah, but that
Um,
it doesn't have to. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I'm influenced by like several artists, but like even just like within my sphere and whatnot. Like I'm
right.
influenced by Afua Richardson does she did stuff for like World of Wakanda and James Bond comic and like a bunch of other stuff like Heroes or
Yeah.
DC and Marvel covers and stuff like that. And all her stuff, almost all her stuff is done on Illustrator. You know what I mean? She does
Oh yeah,
her pencils and her inks, everything on Illustrator.
that's
And
crazy.
like I love her work. And then Stuart Sager, I'm a huge fan of Stuart Sager. He did
That's
the Bionicles. He did the covers for
oh
Bionicles, and then
okay.
he also did the Kiss comic book. He did the covers for those. Like if you look at them, they look almost painted because he like if you ever seen him work, like his hands are filthy when he's done because he's brush and all kinds of stuff, and then he'll take Montana paint markers on his
Yeah.
hands and just smear them, in places that he feels it needs that touch and whatnot. Like he's crazy.
Yeah, some artists are just amazing. You see their work, and some work really big. Dan Burrington is another one I really like. He does Nocturnals
Yes,
and stuff like that.
yes. He
And,
did a run, an Elseworlds run on Batman too, where he did like it was like Robin. Tim Drake was like Robin, but it was like he wore like a Letterman's jacket, Robin. It's like
oh,
it was
really?
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really good. I don't remember
he's
what
the
it was called.
one
It was a great
artist
story.
that I met twice at a convention. Was funny. So the first time I met him, he was either having a bad day or something. He was very grumpy. So I had him sign a book, and he's like, "What do you want me to draw inside?" And I'm like, "Well, the Gun Witch." And he's like, "Of course," because everyone likes the Gun Witch from Nocturnals.
Right?
I like it. I mean, it's a cool character. I mean, there's other characters, but he's like, "Okay," and he signed it, and he was talking to some other guy while he was drawing this for me or whatever. I was like, "Here you go." So he just kind of came off as this kind of like, well, kind of a jerk or whatever. But whatever, I got my book signed. I met him a few years later and it came up to him. He was like the nicest guy. Oh, hey, it's like, can you sign these hardbacks? I have Nocturnals. Oh, yeah. Sign him. He's really happy. And so, like, yeah, don't ever take the first impression of your creators at like face value because it could just be
Right.
whatever's happening that day. Super nice second time. So I'm like, okay. Not that he really like, obviously he was, I would interrupt him in the conversation, was could have annoyed him. He was having a conversation with somebody else. Speaking of weird news, you
Batgirl and
read
Robin Thrill Killer. That's what it was called.
which one? Oh, Thrill Kill.
Batgirl and Robin Thrill Killer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You read Battle Chasers, right?
Yes.
Are you a fan of Joe Mad's work at all?
I love his work. I loved his work when I was younger. I felt like growing up, I was like, oh man, I want to like emulate his style because I love the big, thick, bold
Yeah.
lines. You know what I mean? On his pencils, like he penciled cleanly, and it was like very beautiful, bold lines, very much like um uh, Ed McGuinness. You know what I mean? Ed
Yeah,
McGuinness has a bunch of like really, really nice, clean, bold lines. And the problem is, it took forever for him to get a book out.
I know it just took forever. So strange enough, the news is not only is issue 10 of Battle Chasers actually coming out. What are the odds? The book's done. Apparently, it's being shipped. Another artist, not Joe Madsen, but the other artist just as great. So I was reading this article and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know issue 10 is coming out. It's great. And then we're working on issue 11, and I'm like, Joe, just end the series. Don't try to do ongoing. Just end it. Right. Even you got another artist, just end it. But halfway down, it had this little paragraph says, yeah, it looks like the guy who made the John Wick movies is really interested in making a Battle Chasers live action show for Netflix. And I was mixed feelings on that. I'm like, well, I could see
Wait,
that working, but if you take Joe Mad's art out of Battle Chasers, is it really Battle Chasers anymore? I don't
I
see
don't know. Who would they get to play Red Monica?
Red Mike. Dolly Parton. I'm
I'm
trying to,
just saying. I mean, I could list a couple of people that I think would be great. In fact, I think one of them has actually dressed up as Red Monica before. But
I just think if they're going to do a Battle Chasers, they should just do away with live action, just make it CGI. Like that new
yeah,
Arcane
that would be
series or
great.
something. Keep
Oh,
the
have you
art
played that
style.
game? Was it Battle Chasers Night something? Night
Yeah.
Theater Night something? Like I played like I think I put in about 2 hours onto that game, and
Yeah.
it's very much like old school Final Fantasy, but it's
So,
a
yeah, what I
blast to
liked
play through.
about
Yeah,
it,
the art was amazing.
which kind of goes, it's kind of funny because I remember they asked him, like when the Battle Chasers was being made, like, why are you so late? And I guess he spends all his time playing Final Fantasy. He was addicted to video games.
That's what
And,
I heard too.
so
And
now
when new
that
Final Fantasy
it's
came
come
out,
full
great. We're not
circle.
gonna get a book.
Right. And so it's come full circle. Now Battle Chasers is the very video game that he was addicted to by making the comic. I'm like, okay, this is the trifecta here. But yeah, I like the guy. He actually, his company brought out another game. I think maybe connected to League of Legends or something like that, or something that I've never heard of.
Isn't
Same
that
art
what
style.
Isn't it
Yeah,
Arcania?
Arcane. You're right. The Netflix
Arcane?
TV show.
Isn't
There's
that based off
another.
of League of Legends characters?
Yeah, and I watched 2 episodes of that. I like it. I actually like it so far. I just think if they do Battle Chasers, just do, because I'm just thinking like, well, okay, there's so many things in Battle Chasers that one, yeah, the Red Monica, who's going to get that, and if that's not going to be like, you know, all the political people running out for that character alone,
I'm just
um,
saying, if they want to do it justice, they
just
need to hire my friend April Hunter because she would fit it perfectly.
just perfectly.
Yes,
Maybe it did.
she's
Actually, I
super
was wondering how they're going
cool.
to do
She's hardcore.
like Calibretto, the big robot. Like, how would they do that? I mean, he would be completely CG.
I think they would do that the same way they did, and I don't follow the manga or the manga. I don't follow the anime, but like the way they did the little brother in um Full Metal Alchemist.
There's a
You
live
know what I
action
mean?
one, how they did him.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
that's
the
what I'm
live
saying.
action one yet. I could see them doing it, but again, if you're
Because I'm
gonna
pretty sure that was CGI, but it was really it wasn't like CGI. You get a lot of like I don't know. It's almost like a shine on it that you're like, okay,
yeah,
that's right. But this was like even the metal of his armor and whatnot did not seem that way to me. It looked very, you know, to me it looked very like muted.
muted and
So
rusted.
it was pretty, yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I was curious. I was surprised. I don't know why all this Battle Chases resurgence. Like, I mean, it was a cool series. I just assumed that would be the end of it. I mean, I liked the character. Again, I was more, inspired by the art. It was just, it was so. I mean, to me, if they want to make a show based on one of those fantasy comics, they should do the comic Telos. Did you ever read Telos?
Oh yes, I loved Mike Roingo's work.
Yeah,
Loved it.
I'm
Like
like, that's a full story. I'm like, just make
I
that
was like
into a
half
show.
mad and half sad when he passed away. But I was
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh,
like
like
just
he
make
had a
that into a
fantastic
TV show.
style.
Yeah, I love that book, and I've read some of the sequels, but I love the fact that it was an ending. It was just a closed story. I mean, you got to
Yeah,
the end, it was like, yeah,
yeah, that was a great book. Like I look
yeah,
forward to picking that one up every time it came out. Like I even put away Detective Comics if had a choice between that or Tellus.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Telos was, and I collected both of them. I still have my original hardcover, and
Nice.
yeah, I still. But there's a few other. Yeah, did you ever read the comic called Skull Kickers?
No.
It's relatively newer one. You might like if you like fantasy comics. That kind of gets meta at the end. It's sort of weird, but there's about three graphic novels of it out. If you get it from the library or something, it's worth it. If you like that sort of like fantasy type comic, I thought it was pretty good. I like fantasy
Cool.
comics. There's so few of them, it
What you say? It's
seems.
called Skull Kickers.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny some of the stuff they do in there. Kind of a humorous fantasy comic, but I liked it. I like the artwork in it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I was just so
I
weird to hear.
like. I was also reading a book called Barbaric.
Oh,
That is a funny book.
what you
It's
know? What book is that?
so it's about this barbarian who like loves to go and kill people and just creep like
Yeah.
just rend flesh from bone. And he was on a boat, and these three witches cursed him that anytime someone asks him for help, he has to do it. Like he's compelled to have to help them. Like you were pretty much crap, up until this point, and you were crap to us. So um now anytime someone asks you for help, you have to. And then one person like turns and looks, "Aren't you going to help me?" As he's walking like out of the bar, he's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, crap." Like, yes. And then it makes it even funnier that his axe talks to him, right? His axe is like a double-ended axe. And one end of it is like the metal is shaped into that of a skull with like a big mouth and like teeth. And every time his axe drinks blood. So every time he like hacks people and whatnot, his axe is like just immensely happy. And there was one time he was going into like this like church that had all these like bad monsters and whatnot. And he was just like swinging and hacking, taking everything. And like the whole time he's like I'm gonna get out of here, blah blah. And this axe is like all drunk, like drunk off the blood. It's like just keep going.
Just keep going. Just give it.
It was so funny.
It's
Like
called
just the
Barbaric.
interaction between him and the axe is hilarious.
I have to write that down because I love stuff. The other, there's another comic I was reading for a while called Headlopper. Um,
Headlopper. I think we have a theme tonight.
yeah, that was a pretty funny comic, and I think I had the first two, and there's a third volume out that I've yet to buy. But I usually buy graphic novels, and then I take my. I always get distracted. Like I want to collect something, and then some new series will come out, or I'll go wander. I love completed works, like anything. Like I bought the Luther Strode series because it was the complete thing. I'm like, okay, I'll sold. Um, I
Nice.
used to be running around collecting stuff. Now I'm just more like, can you give it to me in all one book, especially if it ends, and I'll buy it
See,
then.
I like having the floppies. I like being able to like leaf through them, even if I have all of them. Even if I buy the complete set in floppies, then I can just like,
There
you know
was,
what I
well,
mean? I
I
love
think
it.
I did. I tell you about that. I've talked about this before on Silverline about the company called TKO Comics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, would they do the floppies in the box?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
I
in
got one
fact,
of
I
those.
think
Those
they
are
came
cool.
to the Kubert School our third year to do portfolio reviews, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I actually bought one of those where all the comic books are in a little box or whatever. I'm like, well, that's really cool. The box doesn't stay in greatest condition, but it was just the idea that they're all in a box. I'm like, oh, that's different.
right.
You never see
Already
anything.
pre-collected for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the kind of they come a little oversized or whatever. I like floppy, especially if they kind of like add like a like they seem uniform, all kind of connected together. I have
Yeah.
collected.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I'm trying to do. My Godling each Godling book kind of looks like the same sort of format, except different pictures. They all kind of look like they go together. At least that's my idea. Um, yeah, I haven't collected. I think I collect more graphic novels and stuff now. I do read some stuff online. I don't read as many online stuff, just because I don't like sitting at a computer and reading.
yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but
I try not
I
to.
do
I try
some.
not to read anything. But like if there's something out and it's not my usual. Like I think I read the first issue of Mary Shelley Monster Hunter online,
Oh, okay.
and I and it's basically about Mary Shelley and the
The
reason
lady
why
from
I guess the reason
Frankenstein.
yeah, yeah, the reason she wrote Frankenstein was because she actually went out and found the monster. So like it was really neat. Like, but it's like the artwork is very like I don't want to say eclectic, but it's very different. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
there's a lot of red. Like it's just a lot of hues of red and some other colors in there, but like the coloring was very simple, but it was effective. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But yeah, I read the first issue of that online, I think, and then I was like, okay, I've got to find this book. Like, I want to keep reading the rest of it. So I ended up like I think I ended up going to my comic shop and I talked to them about it and at the time, and he's like, oh yeah, I can get that in. I'm like, sweet, make it happen.
yeah. I keep going to the Indie Planet. That's kind of what I go to, which is connected to Kablam, which apparently we have somebody who works for Silverline named Tommy, who's co-owner of Kablam, or some sort of, I don't know,
I
insert
don't
plug
know,
here.
right? I didn't know
Uh,
we had a guy.
I know we have an
That was
inside
interesting.
guy. We're connected,
We're
but
connected, right?
we are connected. But I go to Indie Planet now and just hunt down all these random
So
comics
I
at the
looked
Family
into
Skills
that
section.
this week because you mentioned it last week, I
Yeah,
believe. Like I haven't navigated much into it, but like I was
there's a
like, oh
lot. So it's kind of like
yeah,
pick genre, like fantasy, sci-fi. There's a lot of stuff that's like, it's okay. But I found some stuff in there that, like, there's one guy called like the Edge of the Sword or something, and I bought the first comic as four. I need to go back and buy the other three. But that was great, and I'm just sitting there going like, "Where did this guy come from?" I mean, there's some independent
right.
people I find there. I'm like, "Why isn't this person working like in the industry proper?" I mean, yeah. So that was impressive, and I have a bunch of other coming uh in the mail and stuff. But yeah, there was another artist. I think her name is D. I don't know if her last name is Fish or she goes by D Fish. She did so, and her art reminds me a little bit of Arthur Adams and stuff. She's really good
That's cool.
artist, and she did a comic called, I think it's called The Well Keeper on there, that was really well done. And so I think
That's
I got
sweet.
that one. I got that. I sometimes I buy in digital, sometimes I buy in physical. I try to buy physical when I can, but it's always kind of fun. I still go to comic stores, but just not as much. I go in. I've been so I have been out of comics enough that now when people talk about the newest artists and stuff, like I don't know who they are. I feel bad. Like some of them, like I know Sean Murphy, but there was this Donnie Yates. Am I getting that
Yeah.
right? I don't know who that is. Is
Kate,
Kate?
Johnny
Is he
Kate.
a writer or is she a writer? Is it a he or
He's a writer. It's a dude. I think it's a dude. Yeah, yeah, pretty sure it's a dude. Yeah.
yeah? We're sorry
Sorry,
out there,
Johnny.
Donnie. If you're out there listening, we're sorry. Yeah, I've heard your name come up, and I was like, "Oh, is a writer with us?" So there's, I don't, because I haven't read proper like the mainstream DC superhero stuff in a long time, especially since COVID. I couldn't go to
Actually,
the library. I haven't done it
according
in a while.
to our friend Wikipedia or our friend Google, comic book writer, artist, and podcaster.
Podcaster, okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know he did he just did what's the new book he did? Like give me a minute. Because I kind of heard people giving him crap for it, but
Yeah, it
then
just worked better outside the
after he
mainstream. I
read,
actually like a lot of the artists who work on mainstream when I like their projects outside the mainstream better than the mainstream stuff a lot of times.
yeah.
Um, so there was an artist, the guy who did Luther Strode, he's an artist, and I got to figure out what else he's done. Very unique art style. His name is Trad Moore, Tradd Moore, and his art style is alone worth it. This is a Luther Strode thing. I'm sure people have seen it before. Um, but I finally got the it was good. There was some stuff in there they didn't really explain. I kind of had to infer, but the artwork was worth the price of admission alone. Trad Moore, he actually ended up
Oh
doing
wow.
Ghost Rider. Would they relaunch Ghost Rider where he's driving the muscle car? I think he
Yeah,
was the
Robbie
first
Reyes.
artist for that. And then I'm not sure what he did after that, but I think he's still around.
His stuff looks um like it's was it Fist of the North Star?
Yeah, doesn't it? And this, I mean, the
Yeah.
whole Luther Strode is like one big fighting kind of kung fu fighting comic, which I thought was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, definitely interesting. And I'm always like new artists that I don't see before. Um Especially when stuff breaks out or whatever. I honestly haven't been really impressed with a lot of the artwork that's come out of the mainstream lately. There's some artists that are good, but I don't know. Maybe it's. I know Roland's talked about. He thinks a lot of the artwork nowadays in comic is overly rendered, and I don't know. Maybe that's a problem with it, but
Well, I feel that a lot of artists are like either left or got canned from like
yeah,
it's not even really big two anymore. It's like kind of big three. It's been a big three for like a minute if you count Image and whatnot,
yeah,
which you should because Image is huge. But like yeah, like a lot of artists have gone off to do their own thing because for whatever reason they don't want to work with the bigger companies.
yeah.
And
And
that's
I'm
your
not
own
sure.
personal belief. That's your own. their own politics and whatnot. But
I don't know if it's
it's like
politics. I don't know if
I've
it's
been a
just
huge fan of Ethan Van Sciver's work.
yeah,
And I know people are like, oh, yeah, blah blah blah, comics.
yeah.
Like, yeah, but I can't deny that the dude's work I feel is really good.
Oh yeah,
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
this
I love
regardless of
watching him put his detail in.
yeah, regardless of his politics, he's definitely a talented artist. There's no getting around
Right.
that. Um, and he did stuff. I think he did like he started going into more just doing covers. Like he did interior work, and then I think he just more went did covers for various the mainstream. Became more of a cover artist. And I think he's back doing interiors with the Cyberfrog, but I think he was doing covers
Yeah,
more.
but that's all his own stuff now. He doesn't do anything for anybody
Yeah, he
else. It's
doesn't do
all his
anything.
own thing.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't need to.
Which kudos for him. We should all be working on our own stuff. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and hopefully it goes more that way. It is definitely interesting in this industry that more pros can are doing their own stuff. That it used to be people do their own stuff to break into the mainstream, but it seems like a lot of mainstream people are just kind of going back and doing their own stuff. Uh,
Right.
I think Image kind of opened the door a little bit for that. Having like sort of a company that you can own your stuff and publish your stuff, they were like, well, yeah, if I can go through that and put the Image name on there and stuff. And so
Right.
yeah. Um, I'm always hunting down. The ones I hunt down the most are independent comics like we do, like on the internet, like not connected to any company except for Silverline, of course.
Yeah, there's a few I've done. Like I am new to the whole crowdfunding thing. Like that.
Yeah,
Like I've seen it. I've watched a few things here and there. I've never quite understood it. Not sure if that's something that I can manage on my own, but like definitely like I've been paying attention. But like I just recently, I mean mine is Christmas special stuff, but like I just recently actually like backed a few things that I
yeah.
never backed before. Like I backed Painkiller Jane,
Oh yeah,
Amanda
yeah.
Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti.
That was an old
Fantastic.
comic.
It's great. So the comic's been around for a minute, but like
Yeah.
they're putting out another trade or yeah, graphic novel for it.
Okay.
And then I did another one, and I'm at a loss off the top of my head right now. I had to look it up online. Another one was a western, and I'm like, oh, I like it.
There was one that I don't have them on hand, but there's a Western comic I've been getting through Kickstarter called Lead City, like Lead, like lead bullets.
Okay.
That's a great comic. There's 2 volumes of that out, and you might be able to find them for sale. This is always kind of my bummer. It's like I wish sometimes, and I don't know, maybe this is after done with the Kickstarter, do they put in an online store that you can buy in case you missed the Kickstarter? But I don't think they do that a lot.
I
So
know that what was it Indiegogo now has, or not now, but like has where you can do
the
was it on
extension,
demand?
yeah,
Yeah, so like if you fulfill your goal and whatnot, I don't know if it's like if you exceed it by a certain amount or if you just fulfill your goal, you can
right,
actually send it into like an on demand where even after your thing is complete, they can go by and keep buying your book.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think that's really cool.
I know I when Kickstarter first came out, it seemed relatively pretty straightforward. You know you make some prizes. This is what you want to raise the money. Here's the prizes. But now there's like tiers, and like you raise so much money, you unlock a tier, and
Yeah.
then they make packages. It seems like a lot of work to give these
And
packages
then add-ons on top of add-ons on top of
and
add-ons.
add-ons, and that's where I start getting confused. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
so
see that.
do I add on everything? And I think Kickstarter's kind of made it. I kind of like the way they did it the last few times where I've pledged for comics on there. You go to after you pledge, you go to a page where it's like, here's these other things you can add on, and you can
Yeah.
just click. I'm like, okay, that makes it a little easier because they had to explain like, here's these packages and this package is submitted to this package you can add on this, and I'm just like, wait, what? So I have a friend who's run a few Kickstarters, and he said he'd help me if I ever did one of my own. So I'm thinking about maybe
That's
doing it for
cool.
my comic godlings. But the thing is my comic godlings is available to buy in my store. So I still got to figure out like, so if I'm kickstarting the comic that's been available to buy in my store for a while, is it really a Kickstarter? But then people say they use Kickstarters for all sorts of things. So I'm like, well, should I just kickstart the graphic novel? And in the Kickstarter, should I tell them if you don't want to wait for the Kickstarter, you can go buy the comic from my store? So I'm trying to
Possibly
figure.
because if
Yeah,
you're kickstarting the graphic novel, that's what you're trying to promote. You're trying to promote.
right.
Listen,
But
we've
then if
already
you
got
want to
these
buy the
books.
single
We put these
issues,
books out. Yeah.
yeah, you can go to my store.
All I need you is give me your money so I can print this all together in one book.
And I've actually thought about bringing the Target. price down low. Like, so, like if you're using the Kickstarter to not do a print run, but just like maybe a print on demand sort of thing, that
Yeah.
basically whoever backs the Kickstarter gets the book and just use the Kickstarter as a promotion thing. So keep the actual target money for like $500 or something. So it's easier to accomplish that goal. And then once they accomplish it, anyone who signs the Kickstarter, it's like, well, the book's already done. So if you just basically, if you back the Kickstarter, you'll get the book guaranteed because it's done. I'm
Right.
thinking all sorts of different ways. I'm still trying to figure this out because I was like, I wanted to make before I really put Goblins out there. I wanted to make all 12 issues because I didn't want to be late. I didn't want to put my book out in the stores and stuff and then have it be late. I like, well, I want the whole thing done, and then that way, when I release it, it'll release on time because it's all done, and you could just,
Right.
yeah, that was my idea. Um,
That's what Billy Tucci's doing with She.
it was,
He's like, oh, I plan on I'm going to kickstart this at the beginning of the year, and I plan on doing 4 Kickstarters, and the books will be done before the Kickstarter even starts.
yeah,
Like all the art and everything's ready to go, and then Kickstarter, I guess, is the paper printing and
because
whatnot,
it
and
used to
billing.
be, yeah, Kickstarter. There was a lot of, I think what Kickstarter kind of got a bad rap is a lot of people would draw a page or two and then we're going to kickstart this book and show a preview and then they would get the money and then never actually go back and make the product, which has been a huge problem. So I think sometimes just, I think this what Silverline does is every Kickstarter we do, the book's done. Like you don't have to wait. I
Right.
mean, once you get the money, we'll print the book and send it to you. It's all done. We're not waiting on artists or colorists or whatever. um so yeah. Yeah, I'm still figuring out the Kickstarter thing, but I've heard people say the Kickstarter stuff is also not as strong or dying. The only thing I can think of is again, like if everybody's jumping on the Kickstarter bandwagon, then it just crowds it. Like trying to use social media to promote your art. It's like, yeah, me and a billion other people are trying to promote our art. And so Kickstarter used to be like an anomaly, now it's the norm. So everyone, like if when I go online,
Right.
like every other post is a Kickstarter campaign going. It's like they're nonstop to the point where like I think like me included are becoming kind of numb. Like, yeah, Kickstarter, yeah, Kickstarter. And I'm actually getting to the point now where I don't like Kickstarters because I just want to go buy your book. Like, if you like, oh, your book looks pretty cool. Oh, it's a Kickstarter. And I'm like, well, does that mean it's not going to be done or whatever? If you had a post that said, go buy my book here, I would go buy your book. But go pledge to a Kickstarter, especially when the book's like twice as much and I don't know if you're actually going to complete it. Why? So
Right.
I
And
just think it's
I
wrong.
get that like you pledge, like you back something, and like,
Right,
oh, I'm backing it for 20, $40 or whatever. I keep smacking my line. And if you do it at the beginning of the Kickstarter, like the beginning of the campaign, you got to wait what, 30 days, 60 days before you actually have to pay it. Which some
right,
people are like, oh yeah, that's fine because I'll pledge now, and then in the end, in the end, then that's when they'll pull the money out. But I'm like, if I'm gonna pledge for something, just take my money out now.
right.
Like,
Because especially at the end of the month, they always do that. Especially they do them
right,
like, yeah, at the end of the month when I have no money, I don't really need $24 coming out of my check. When
right,
and it surprises me all of a sudden. It's like, oh yeah, you're budgeting, and all of a sudden that Kickstarter you pledged to, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Indiegogo takes it out at the time. In Kickstarter is the only one that waits 30 days, and I understand their ideas. Like, well, look, if it doesn't make its goal, we don't want to try to have to reimburse everyone.
right, and I get that.
Yeah, but the way Indiegogo is you don't necessarily have to make your goal to get the money. Say you put like 4,000 to make your goal. If you make 3,075, you still get the money. You just that's your goal to make.
Right,
And so they can take your money out because technically is when you put the Kickstarter, it's going to guarantee to succeed. You may not have made your goal, but it's going to guarantee to succeed because any money you make,
right,
they'll give you. Kickstarter is different. So I understand, like, yeah, if you don't make the goal, then no money's taken out. So I'm like, they just, so, okay, I understand it. But it's still, and I see so few independent comic artists actually post stuff to buy in their store. Like, does anybody even have online stores? Like, I rarely find posts of like, go to my store, buy my comic. I'd love to do that. Everything I find that's cool is like, it's a Kickstarter. Like, and I just, even if it's the coolest book, I just gloss over because I'm like, will I ever get this book? Is it
right.
done?
And I
Is it,
can see that. I can see that, like, not so much insecurity, but like, you know, lack of, I don't know, like, it's hard to have faith in a book when, everything that you've seen, or at the time,
yeah,
keep watching these books fail, or just people not continuing on and finishing it, and then all of a sudden, Like why would I get interested in something like that? I know that Sean Mandrake, she was one of my teachers at school. She has her own
Hmm.
book called Blood of the Taken. Basically it's a vampire book, which is really cool. And she sells it on Gumroad. I think it's called Gumroad,
Okay.
right? And at first, when she first had it on, it was like, oh, how much you pay, how much you feel. And then I was like, I feel that I should be paying quite a bit of money because I like the art, I love the
Yeah.
story so far. You know what I mean? And then I guess she just marked it at like $5 and whatnot, and was like, just expect me. Like I sent her a message, I'm like, just expect me to buy it every time you post online that,
Yeah.
oh, I have a new book out. Expect that I'm gonna get one. Just know it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I'm amazed that people go to Kickstarters and they'll sell issue one for like $10, for, $15 for issue one of a physical copy because the PDF is $10, and then $15 for the physical copy. I've seen one that go like, you want the second issue because it'd be like issue two they're Kickstarting. You want issue one? That's 25. I'm like 25 dollars for two floppy comics? Are you crazy? I'm like, you go to my comic, all my comic books are $5 on my store. You
Right,
have to pay for shipping just like you do on Kickstarter, but they're $5. I can't people go to do that, but they happily go drop $15 on a floppy. I mean, that's and I get the idea. It's like, yeah, but they're trying to kickstart. So by giving the 15, you are also helping them and getting a comic. So I understand that sort of
right.
mentality. But again, I'm like, I've often wondered, could I actually just what would happen if you can like pay $5 in the Kickstarter, get the comic? I'm
Well,
curious
I
to
think
see if
that's.
that works.
I don't know if you could do something like that with Kickstarter. I don't think because Kickstarter has that like formula to be able to do that. I know, like I said,
Yeah,
Indiegogo does. Like once you said, like you said it's like 500, meet your goal, and then it hits on demand. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because then you can buy people can buy your
book or
book
whatever.
on that. But like, I mean, I'm not like complete Kickstarter savvy, but I'm pretty sure that they don't. Nothing I've seen has shown that. Like, if you want to buy their book, you wait for the next campaign. Like, oh, by the way, we're doing issue three, and if you pledge at this tier, you can get one and two at the same time.
Yeah. But but they will charge you more for it. I mean, there was one that like, oh, that looks kind of
Yeah,
cool, and then it was like to get well, how much is to get the physical? Because I want the physical comics. I don't want a PDF. I mean, I understand people sell PDF, but it's just like I don't want a PDF, especially a $10 PDF. I mean, I'm sorry, just no. Um,
yeah.
and
I don't
so
mind a PDF if I know I'm gonna get the hardcover, or if I want to get the
yeah,
floppy.
if it's part of the
Like,
book, a Silverline does that. It
yeah,
sends you the PDF in the book. Yeah, I don't mind that. But I like physical copies, but they're like almost some like $10 or 15.
yeah,
And I'm just like, and I'm always looking for the interior art because so many Kickstarters are all about the covers. Like, yeah, covers are great, but that's one page of it. Hopefully, a 24-page book. What's
right,
the rest of it look like? And most of the time, I see great covers and I go to the interior artwork, and I'm like, no,
right. I call that
no,
bait and switch.
yeah, just
That is
that
a bait
just
and switch situation.
and it just kills me. I'm like, yeah, no, sorry. Just or you try to read a few of the preview pages and the writing's so atrocious, you're just like, no, I can't. Sorry.
Yeah,
And I hate to be the downer on stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, if I expect people to fork over money to mine, I'm giving them their money's worth. But and I'm not just talking like the storyline. I'm just talking about like common misspellings or sentence structure. Like just have somebody read over
right.
your stuff like once or twice to do
One
basic
person.
common.
We just need one person.
Right.
My best friend is absolutely meticulous in life. And
Yeah.
so when I first put out my first book, it was a gothic western, and I had another friend do the artwork,
Yeah.
but it was my story and my creation. But I lettered it, and he was like, dude, your words are too close to the left side. They're like 2 pixels too close to the left side. Move it over.
Oh.
I'm like, are you kidding me? And this is before I learned how to, like, you can align words in
Right.
Illustrator with the boxing that you're doing, right? So I'm sitting there doing this by hand. I'm like, tap, 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 tap.
That,
But like, yeah, he's like super meticulous. But you want that, especially like
yeah.
from, I mean, maybe not such a hard case that's gonna, kill you while you're trying to redo everything. You want to
Yeah.
strangle and choke them out and bury them in the swamp. Like, you definitely want someone that's gonna be like, listen, you want it to look good, then you need to listen to what I'm saying because this is wrong. This doesn't look right. This isn't balanced. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he has an eye for that. So like anytime, like I send stuff, I usually send stuff to him first, and I'm like, hey, what do you think? You know what I mean? And it's been a while since I've done anything for myself other than just
Right.
pinups and stuff like that, which is what I've been doing lately. Um, just because they're easier, I don't have to like focus on them,
Yeah. You could just
with my eye and whatnot. So
and you get like half your, the right side of your image is blurry, the other side isn't a
right.
picture. You know?
So I get pretty good. Okay, so for anybody watching that doesn't know, I have a cataract in my right eye. In my left eye, I had a cataract and I had surgery in that one,
Yeah.
and I have surgery up on my right eye on Friday. But like when I had a cataract in my left eye, my right eye was still not as bad, and so I'd be sitting there working, and then I would reach over and cover up, like, because you're looking with
Yeah.
both eyes. I would reach over and like try to do something, and I'm covering up the art with my right eye. I was starting to look with my left eye, like, oh crap, it's so blurry. I can't do anything. Like, dang
That's,
it.
that's gonna get fixed. You know, it's funny, and even the book I'm putting out, my Gollings, which I only have 12 pages left, it's 300 pages. So yes, you'll be able to go through that book, and I'm sure you'll find mistakes. I have people read it a few times. I have gone back and read books years after people have read it multiple times and found misspellings or whatever. So it just happens, but at least try. That's all I'm just saying.
Right,
You know, just have somebody at least try to do it, so just minimize it. Um, but there's a and I try. I read a lot of comics, and a lot of them are bad and stuff, and I still like them, but I don't know. I get kind of picky, but again, if you go through, there's some amazing writers and artists that are in the amateur field on the Kickstarter that you just gotta hunt, that are amazing. They're really cool. But yeah, so I don't know. I like independent comics. You take the good with the bad. The internet has certainly opened up the floodgates for that venue.
right,
So it's like I will admit I am amazed today, and I'm not knocking these artists per se, but I am amazed at how many artists I see working mainstream comics that I knew if I turned that artwork into a portfolio reviewer and editor, they would have just destroyed me, and yet they're being published. I have
right. Well,
no idea why that is the
there
way
is,
it is.
like, I would say, a famous issue of Captain Marvel, and I'm not going to say the artist's name,
Yeah,
whatnot, but it's just there's no way that that would have gone through even like 5 years ago.
yeah,
You
not
know what I
even
mean?
close.
'Cause, you're like, what? Like, I mean, I understand hurrying up and doing work, but like, there's no line weight to it. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no depth to it. Like, it's like you quickly with a pencil, that
Yeah.
was it, or you just did it with a ballpoint pen. I'm like, ballpoint pens can be beautiful work. Ask Frank Cho,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
this is not it, right? This is not it.
It's amazing
And
because
yeah,
I it feels weird because me and you have worked, like many artists I know, have worked so many years to perfect our skills, and now sometimes I feel like, was that even a mute point? Because people who are younger and obviously less talented than me are getting professional jobs, and I not that I'm really striving for these big professional jobs, but I'm amazed at some of the artists. I mean, I'm like, yeah, these are the artists that were starting out like at Qbert and stuff. Because I went to Qbert a little bit. Like
yeah,
these are the guys who are going to grow into an artist, but
me
they're
too. High
already
five.
there. I like the Q. I went there for a few months, but I liked it when I went there. Um, but yeah, I know I'm amazed, and some artists are amazing, but I am amazed at some of the stuff. I'm just like, okay, I guess that's, and I'm talking like I know there's a lot of young adult art, like that are almost like the Steven Universe type art or whatever. That's on purpose, and that's good.
Right.
I'm talking to ones who are obviously trying to be superhero or realistic and just missing the ball. They're missing it obviously, and it's like, yeah. And I don't know if they come cheap. I would assume most of it they get it done on time. That's probably like 1,000% why they're getting work because it's done. But I am amazed at some of the artists that go through there, and I
Yeah,
just
we should never sacrifice quality for like expediency.
yeah.
Like, I
I've
mean, I
always
know, and
been
obviously, I'm not working for the bigs, but like even for the work I do, the stuff that I'm working on for Silverline, stuff I've done for myself, stuff I've done for
yeah.
my friend's small press company, Pickle Press, out of Indiana. Like, I work my best to try and reach my deadlines but I'm gonna try my best to make it look good and not,
Yeah.
not just like like slap some ink on something, chuck it out. You know what I mean? Like I can't
And
do
this
that.
is
Then I won't feel good about myself.
exactly. And this is I remember there was the old adage, what's more important, the artist or the writer in comics? And I'm always going to say the artist, and people balk at that. And I'm like, look, you can have the best writer in the world. If the art looks crap, no one's reading it. And I do the analogy like, let's say you went and saw the original Star Wars, but instead of the amazing special effects that kind of made that movie what it was at the time, you could see the strings holding the ships, and you can see them bobbing it. You wouldn't
Right.
hear about that movie. Even though the story was good, you wouldn't hear about it because it's not visually representing what you expect. And I think that's the same way. I mean, you can have the best story in the world, but if the artist's not holding up that story, it's not going anywhere. And I hate
That's
to say that
very
because
true.
I do, but it's like comics is a visual medium. If you're going to drop the ball, no one's going to go see the most amazing movie in the world if the what they can do graphically today is half like, oh yeah, we just phoned it in as some guy in a guy. You're like, no, if they brought out a Marvel movie in the cinematic universe and did all the graphics in PlayStation 1 style and said, "Oh, but don't worry about that. The story's good." No one would go see it
Right.
because they know what you can do. They've seen it. Why are they accepting this subpar work? That would, and then of course, it would never happen to movies to begin with. So when people say like, "Oh yeah, but just any artist can draw the comic, as long as the story's good," I'm like, mm-mm. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of my comic friends. I'm like, how many times have you seen a comic looks interesting and the story looks great and you look inside and they're like, yeah, all the time. We look inside and the comic looks like crap and you chuck it, even though it could be the best written story ever. So again, I know artwork is subjective, but I do think there is a sort of like you can definitely tell when somebody's phoning it in and somebody's honestly trying. For sure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like
So
man, I've seen some pretty gnarly art, and you don't want to knock those people. You know what I
no.
mean? But like I try, like I've sat at a convention, and like before I ever like this, I started taking like art seriously.
Yeah.
Started taking like the digital inks, traditional inks, and like digital colors that I started doing. I just barely got into it and started doing it. You know what I mean? I had
Right.
a little bit of work, so I was doing it, and then I was at a convention, and I'm like, I don't know. They like, oh, will you come on this panel and do portfolio reviews? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, sure, like I, you know what I mean? I kind of just slide through on my own, trying to figure it out on my own. Like, how am I supposed to tell somebody else, what they're
Yeah.
doing wrong? And so I'm sitting there and I'm reviewing this guy's portfolio, and I take the Jim Lee approach. And Jim Lee said in an article like way back in the day that like when he does portfolio reviews, he makes sure that he always says three things that are bad and three things that are good,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't want to like leave them with like, oh, this is crap, this is crap, this is
You don't
crap.
want to
Have a nice
decimate the
day,
poor guy. Yeah.
right? Or so like that's his balance is like three things that need work, three things that he likes about it. And so I took that same approach. I was like, listen, this is what I feel needs work here. This is what I feel needs work here. This is what I feel, you know what I mean? This is what
Yeah.
I think is really good. This is what I think you got going on. You know what I mean? And even then I'm like, man, I still don't know why I'm here. But then like the guy next to me, he's all they took it to him, he's like, yeah, pretty much everything he just said. I was like, crap, do I know what I'm talking about?
More than you know, it's kind of innate in you.
Right? I
And
was
I
like,
also,
wow.
as an artist too, I also know my strengths. I know I do not draw superhero comics. That my artwork doesn't cater to that. Even though I like superheroes and I almost it'd be fun to do one. I know that doesn't work for my art. Same thing. I like horror comics. I don't really think my art would fit horror comics. Maybe it would. I don't know. So yeah, that had no limitations. Mike Mignola's a classic case. When I first saw Mike Mignola doing like X-Men or whatever, I'm like, this is horrible. Until he did Hellboy, and then all of a sudden it's like it shined because the art fit the story. And this is yeah, that's the other
Right.
thing too. It's like you can have the worst artist, and it could just be the fact that I don't like your art because it's in the wrong story. Put your art and like there was a guy who did the comic 30 Days of Night. Do you remember those comics? There was a
Yes.
team.
Yeah.
That artwork, if you showed that artwork to the past editors, they would destroy you. But the fact that it was a horror comic, the artwork fit the story and it
Yeah.
worked.
It
It
was
was a whole
really cool.
package. Yeah. So there is definitely stuff to be fit, but there's also some I don't know. I never want to rip another artist, and I never give critiques unless somebody asks me personally because I don't want to,
Right.
you know. I don't feel I have any. I mean, if you like what you're doing, if that's what you're doing, and you enjoy it, and that's what you want to do, then by all means do it. But if you ask me, I mean, I'll give you my opinion. The goal to make you cry, of course. No, I was kidding.
Well,
Um,
of
yeah,
course.
I mean, I want to see tears if I'm going to give you a critique. But yeah, and I'm just, but I've had artists who have been like, they'll just critique you or whatever, and people, and this is, I was talking to like a friend earlier today. Like every time there's a movie that somebody doesn't like, everybody's a professional director. Or
Yep.
I always think that's so funny. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you're making Hollywood movies now. I've seen yours, right? And people ask me like, well, didn't you think that acting was bad? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an actor. I know what I like. I know what I don't like, but I can't sit there and tell you techniques. I don't act. That's not me. So I just kind of like with music. I love music, and there's music I like and music I don't like. I can't read music to save my life. So if it impresses me, even though if they say, well, technically it's not very good or not bad, I'm like, I don't know that. So I admit
Right.
freely that I don't have the knowledge. I just know what I like and don't like. But when it comes to drawing, I do have a little bit of technical. I mean, I know a little bit what I'm doing, so I can talk it. So, but yeah, other stuff. That's why I just always think it's movies. Like, oh yeah, but the direction was so bad and stuff. And I have a friend who will like that. Like, I'll tell him I like movies. Like, yeah, but the cutting, the directing, the editing was horrible. I'm like, I never noticed that. I just assume that's all on purpose. Like,
I go into movies with one single goal. Am I entertained?
yeah.
Like I can go in there and I can tear apart every Marvel
Oh
movie
yeah.
that they've ever made. Like people, oh, this movie's amazing. This movie's amazing. Listen, I can sit here for like the entire time of the movie and tell you why it's wrong, why this is shouldn't be like this, and why should this. But nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Like, so I go in, open mind. Am I going to be entertained? Like, am I going to sit there and be like, at the end, be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool. Like, I didn't see that coming. That was awesome.
And
Like,
the
am I
funny
going to be
thing
entertained?
is I know a lot of people in Silverline know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The thing was, as I was at the beginning, and then they kind of slowly changed. But I think I'm one of these people that just like, I'll get into something, and then I eventually just get tired of it, and it's time to move on. And I don't think it's a knock on. I don't think they're doing anything wrong to cinematic universe. I mean, the Marvel making tons of money. I just say after like 5 or 6 movies, I want to see something new. I'm
Right,
that kind of guy. Like, do something different. I want to see something new. And it's like they have a formula. And so when I've like, you watch a few movies, like, okay, I got your formula, and I keep seeing repeated it. Then, like you said, I'm not entertained, and so I just go do my own thing. I go to something else. That's the kind of the reason why. I mean, I don't knock. I mean, I have reasons why I don't like the movies, or other reasons, but that was just And there's some. I mean, I watched the Shang Chi movie. Is it Shang Chi? Did I say that right? I'm sorry for that.
I don't
I like
know.
that
I
one,
used to call it Shang Chi because that's what it was back in the day.
but they
Like
pronounce
that's
it
how we always
differently.
called it as a comic book. Now it's like Shang-Chi,
Chi or so,
Shang-Chi.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I
I
like that one a
apologize if
lot.
I'm butchering your
Yeah, and so I like that one a
anything
lot,
language.
and so I enjoyed that one. I didn't think Eternals was bad. It was totally different. Again, I like the Eternals probably more because it didn't look like a Marvel movie. So I'm always into
Right.
like them trying
I
to.
like the old Eternals comic. That was cool. I've
Yeah,
not seen the movie yet.
the movie it was okay. I mean, and I'm just kind of like you. Am I entertained? And after a while, the Marvel movies, I was just like, and that's just me. I'm just like, okay, I need to go see something new. I need to go try a different movie genre or do something else.
Right.
And so when people take that as a shot, like, well, you just hate the movies. Like, no, I think I've had my fill of them, and so I'm just gonna go do
Right.
something else. And I get that way about all genres, even my favorite genres. I mean, I might get that way about the Matrix. I mean, they keep making Matrix after Matrix. I might be like, okay, we're done. Sometimes I think like I'm almost like make the new Matrix film. I'm excited, but maybe just make this one and stop. I think sometimes movies and franchises need to know when it's good. You ended it. It's
Right.
good. Star Wars, I think, was kind of like that. I think Star Wars had its main story, and there's a part of me that's like, I like some of the stuff, but maybe I think for the movies, like, okay, the movies maybe need to like cut their losses and stop. Like, go to
Right.
TV. You're
I
doing
think I
good
grew
there.
up liking Star Wars because I think the America was supposed to like Star Wars. And even now,
Yeah,
not like I love Star Wars. I played the Star Wars role playing game. I love Star Wars. I still do.
yeah,
Some of the stuff I don't like, some of the newer stuff I don't like that they took out the novels as canon. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They retconned all that, which I thought the novels were great.
yeah. A
But
lot of them.
I don't remember ever not liking it. You know what I mean? Even like I don't know. I know people were like, "Oh, Ewoks and whatnot." I was like, "I like the Ewoks." You know, I was a kid. I
I thought
grew up with Ewoks. I thought they
I
were
did
great.
too. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with it. The funny thing is, even growing up, for something I can't quite to this day, I've often thought there was something about Star Wars that I liked it. It just didn't grab me like other, like my
Right.
cousin loved Star Wars. It was okay. I liked lightsabers, thought they were cool, but my favorite sci-fi movie growing up was like Tron. I was really into
Oh heck
Terminator and the
yeah.
Predator and like the Aliens movies. So I just had a
I
different
like
taste.
anything noir. Like even
Yeah.
growing up, like the old like James Cagney movies and stuff like all the noir stories, like the old
Yeah.
Private Dick stuff. Like there's a new movie I think it's coming out. Guillermo del Toro, right?
I think that's how, yeah. Yeah.
The guy that did Hellboy,
Yeah, he's done a bunch of movies. He's doing a
right?
new one. Yeah.
Yeah, Nightmare Alley. That's a very like set in like almost like a noir story, like back in the day. Like even like when he was talking about it, because I saw an article thingy on it or I guess an interview or something was talking
Yeah.
about it, and he said that like I wanted you as the watcher to watch it and have look at it like, hey, this is man, this is just like the old movies back in the day. Like that's the feel I wanted it, and that's the feel I'm pushing like so that you can get
Yeah.
that same feeling I did while you were watching. I'm like, that's fantastic. Like that's right up my alley.
Yeah, and I wish they would do that, especially technology. We can actually mimic a lot of movie styles and stuff,
Yeah.
and do some really, really crazy stuff. Yeah, and I was the one even when they brought out the sequel to Tron. Like the sequel to Tron has grown on me, but there are a few things when I
Legacy?
watched it,
Was
I
it
was like,
Legacy? Yeah, Legacy,
yeah,
yeah.
Legacy. And for one, I absolutely fell in love with the design of Tron's original world because I'd never seen anything like it. I'm always that way. If there's something that I've never seen before and it's like cohesive and cool, I'm into it. Star Wars was like parts of it I like. Like I liked like the completely alien stuff. Like the Battle on Hoth was my favorite because everyone loved the
Yeah.
AT-ATs, right? I like the indoor stuff, like the speeder bike chase. That was cool. And then there were the Cloud City was like, Cloud City was okay. And it was
Right.
environments for me. It was okay, but didn't like blow me away. Maybe because there was no like major action piece on Cloud City like there was on the other
Right.
ones. So there were hit and misses and just stuff like that. But Tron had never seen anything like it. I mean, the fact that you were living in a world with geometric shapes, and still to this day that movie doesn't age because that's just what the world looks like. You
Right.
can't
I
look into like
thought the first
yeah
one, like I love the first one, but then I didn't remember that I loved it. And then I saw Tron Legacy. I was like, oh yeah, I love this.
yeah yeah.
Like the story is cool. I mean, what
It's a little
I thought it was really good. I
yeah
love the music. Daft Punk did the music for it, so I love the music
yeah.
for it. Right, the music was amazing, and I still listen to it. But yeah, like just it reminded me how much I loved it, how much I loved the contrast of the light on their outfits and whatnot.
And
Just
the contrast, yeah. I've heard rumors that they're rebooting Tron. Again, that's a part of me where I'm like, I don't know, maybe you should just let it lie. I don't know.
right,
There's a part of me. It's like maybe take the same aesthetic and do something different. I'm getting the kind of leery like we need to reboot old franchises. Like no, let's do new stuff. Take the Tron aesthetic and do something new, or something we've
right,
never seen before. That's like Avatar was a big one. James Cameron's Avatar. I'd never seen see an alien world to see that. I mean, that was new and different,
right,
especially in 3D. That's what I'm looking for as an artist. I think that's the fine artist in me because I was actually trained in fine arts. Is like I kind of sometimes like the mixed commercial and fine art. Like I like commercial art, but I want that fine art sensibility of them doing something I've never seen before.
right. I don't like commercial art.
Yeah,
Like I've done it. I've done graphic design. I went to school for
yeah.
graphic design originally, and then I realized this is not what I want to do. Mostly because I hate redoing the same thing I do over and over again, over again,
I'll
and over
just
again, and
stick.
over again with revisions. And then, oh, can we just do it the way you did the first time? Like, really?
And I used to
And I
get
bring like
novel.
I've talked about that. I've said that before
Yeah.
because it's actually happened to me, and I don't like it.
Oh yeah, it's really especially when it's like they go back and they present the new one. I never graphic design. It seemed like, and it's the modern version of graphic design. It seems so plain and straight to the point. Like I understand, but like no, just put a big red dot with the words. I'm like, well, we could do kind of something cool with the red dots or something.
Right?
No, we just want the red dot. I'm like, I can make that in seconds. You can make that. Why the hell are you hiring me? You know,
Right.
I don't mind the
I'm
money,
gonna
but then
charge you
there's
a couple bills for it, but
yeah,
like I'm gonna
it's
do this in the bathroom while I'm waiting.
and it's always my thing is every time I found, oh, this is a really cool idea, they like the most generic, boring idea. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I don't get. I think I just not a big fan of modern graphic design. There used to be
Right.
really cool designs, but they would have like a different idea and a different like connection, and now it's like Target's the epitome, like the Target store. I don't know if you have Targets down there.
Yeah,
Uh,
we
you
do.
know, your Targets, it's like a big red Target. I'm like, great, but like that's like McDonald's, the M. It's like, okay, I know it's iconic, whatever, but it's very uninspiring. I mean, it's nothing
Right.
to it. I guess I was amazed that when it came to that stuff, is I always thought you had to be an artist to be a graphic designer, and I realized like so many graphic designers are not artists, like at all, and that threw me because I always just assumed like when they go like, "Well, can you do graphic design?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm an artist. Of course I can." And they're like, "Can you?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And but you can't convince him otherwise. I mean, I thought like I would try. Oh no, no, we don't like your designs. I'm like, I could technically do the work and do it. I mean, but apparently, I have a friend who's a graphic designer. She's been doing it for years. Can't draw at all. That surprised me, and I've counted this more and more. I just thought the two went hand in hand. Apparently, they do not. But I don't think that's the way it was. I think before computers, I think you had to be an artist to be a graphic designer, and
Right.
I think computers have made it that you don't have to now because of the ease of the programs. That's my
That's just like back
guess.
in the day. You have to actually be able to act and have some kind of skill. You have to either act and dance or act and sing.
Or
You know what I
something
mean?
of
To
that
be able
nature.
to, yeah, something of that nature. Because then you get like the classics. Bing Crosby. Was it Gene Kelly?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were all
You
classic.
know, they were. They all classically did something. Either sang or they danced. You know what I
That's why
mean?
I think Hugh Jackman works because he was a dancer, a singer in
Yeah.
musicals, and then they made him Wolverine. That's why it
Funny
just blew
enough,
my
so is
mind.
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan, yeah, he could sing and
Yeah.
do all that. And there was, yeah, I think a lot of actors are just like if you're popular on the internet, they'll throw you behind the camera or in front of a camera, and let you do whatever.
Or
Um,
if you were funny, if you're like a comedian, you're funny. Or let's put you in a movie.
yeah.
Funny enough, what's his name? The dude that was in The Mandalorian, he was a comedian.
Oh,
Burt
Bill Burr. Yeah,
Gilbert. Yeah, I actually liked him in The Mandalorian. I thought he was
yeah, I
pretty
thought he
cool.
was
Like
good.
I'm not, and then I watched like I was like, oh, he's a comedian. I'm gonna check his stuff out. I'm not a big fan of his comedy,
Yeah, yeah,
but I actually liked his character. Like originally, like his first episode he was in, I was like, oh yeah, he's just a typical guy. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
like was it the last episode he was in? I was like, he's actually got depth. Like they created depth for him. You know what I mean? They created like a
yeah,
background and so I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
dig this dude.
And I actually kind of
Like,
like the way they did it and stuff. Yeah, Bill Burr's comedies are, I'm a big fan of like George Carlin and stuff. George Carlin's a little more thought out. Bill Burr, I think, does a good job thinking it out, but he's a little more off the cuff. Uh, I like Lewis Black. He's more like ranting over. I like angry comedians.
yeah,
But Bill Burr sometimes is a hit or miss for me. Same thing. There was another comedian I can't think of that was hit or miss. But some comedians don't translate to the screen. Bill Burr, I think, does. Robin Williams, another one to translate. I mean, he's stand-up comedian, and he translated, and he did really good in serious roles. Tom Hanks is the same way,
yeah,
very good in dramatic roles, even though they started out as more comedians. I don't know if Tom Hanks ever
yeah.
did
Was it Tom
stand
Hanks
up.
was in? He was in. I don't think he ever did stand up. But he was like, he was in a comedy show called Bosom Buddies.
Yeah, it was a sitcom. I
Where like
remember that show.
in order to live in the building they were at, they had to like be. It was a women's only
It was
building.
sorority or something, and so they
Yeah,
dressed up
yeah,
as
yeah,
women to live at the sorority. Yeah, I mean, he started out as a comedic actor, and then he
yeah.
again just started doing more serious roles. And I think the one that really changed him was the Philadelphia. I think it was called just Philadelphia, the one about AIDS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think
Philadelphia.
that was the one that really cemented him as like, okay, this guy can do both. He can do acting and stuff, and then from there, he's actually in more serious roles than comedic roles now,
Yeah.
which is
Did
interesting.
I actually want to see the one he did where he was Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I
Like,
actually, me and my friend saw the actual documentary. They did a documentary about Mister Rogers before that movie.
oh, that's
Um,
cool.
and we saw that in theaters, and that was really good. And I can't remember the full name of it. So I was like seeing both, but there was a documentary hour and a half that talks about the show and Mister Rogers and what he went through, and then they made the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I did see the documentary, and I can't remember the exact title of the full thing.
Yeah,
Um,
like I didn't know that like several people that I used to watch and follow as a kid. Like I remember, and it was probably reruns when I watched it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I remember when Bob Ross was on TV,
Oh
like
yeah,
was it every Sunday, every
yeah,
Saturday afternoon or something like that? Like they would play it, and thinking back, it probably was a rerun when I watched it. You know what I mean? But still,
right.
it was like it was a serial thing. It came on, every week, and like that and Captain Kangaroo. I remember watching Captain
Hmm.
Kangaroo, and like then you find out like those guys served in the military and they were like in war and whatnot. I was like, to think that like they come out of it doing
Yeah,
these things because they don't want to be associated. They don't want their life being associated with the savagery and whatnot of like going to war. Like I just think like that's amazing.
yeah. I know Mr. Rogers. I think they said he was a minister or he was
Yeah,
involved in the church. I think he still was through his life. I can't remember, but yeah, he was religious and stuff. Which I totally
yeah,
fine. It kind of made sense, but I didn't realize the one that surprised me. And one was out of time here is the pinup lady Betty Page. Most people know Betty Page, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I watched a documentary on her, and it was crazy. So she did a lot of that, and she was one of the pinups that kind of start more kind of the fetishish stuff. But she did a lot of pinups, and then they had a crackdown on a lot of that stuff where the stores are getting raided. And one guy told her like, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. She's okay, so she split town, left. She went to the church. She became religious and became underneath Billy Graham. I think it was Billy Graham, and was promoting the church and like completely turned over.
Huh.
They contacted her, found her in her 90s, like years later after she retired. She had no idea that she'd become famous off of her previous work in those pinup photos.
Are you
None.
serious?
Yeah, they talked to her. She had no idea. She had no idea that she was like the epitome of the pinup girl. Not a clue. And she died shortly
Wow.
years after that. So she never capitalized on it. Everyone loved her. And they asked, did you regret it? Even when she had turned to the church. She's like, no, no, that was part of my life. No biggie. No,
Right.
yeah, I never regretted it. But like literally lived two different lives. It was really fast, and there was a documentary out that you can watch her on that about Betty Page. It's fascinating because they actually showed it, and I was like, she just had not a clue, didn't have any. Because strangely enough, a lot of the Betty Page stuff was at comic conventions are kind of underground. So how would she know
Right.
if you don't run those circles? It's not like you would know. So yeah, that completely. She had no idea she became like so famous. So
Like
yeah.
I know there's an artist, was it Olivia de, but I can't say her last name,
Hmm.
Baradinas or something like that. She does a lot of like Betty Page inspired work. Like when
Hmm.
she does a lot of like pinups of Betty Page and like she's on Instagram. You can watch her like actually like do it, and she'll take the big like bold wide Copic, you know what I mean, the
Oh
wide
yeah, the
marker,
markers.
and just run across, right? And that's her hair. Like wherever the marker ink broke away is like the highlights in her hair and whatnot. It's really neat. Like you should
Some
check it
people are
out.
just amazing like that. Well,
I
look,
know.
it's
It's crazy.
9:56. I take it we could probably just
Oh,
yeah. So it's almost
and
10
you
o'clock.
said it was gonna be a
We did
short
say, but again,
show.
two people talking, and I'm sure everyone's left the chat by now. Like these guys are boring, so just got out
Right.
of here. So, but anyways, we should be back next week. The week after next, probably not because it's Christmas week. But next
Right.
week we should be back, and I'm sure Tim and Quentin will be here too. So
To rein us in.
to rein us in or whatever. But until then, I guess keep mine Silverline, and we'll see you guys next week.
That's right.
See you
Have
later.
a good week.